And we are recording. Hi, everybody. As always, I'm Brian Kynes, the creator of the Tales of Ulran campaign setting. We use a variety of tabletop role-playing game systems to navigate through this world. We've heavily homebrewed it with a lot of really interesting kind of concepts and new ideas. Created largely in part by myself and the input from those that are joining me this afternoon. And speaking of those people, we'll start introductions with them here in just a minute, but they have joined me once again on this Sunday afternoon to help me write this story one chapter at a time. We'll go ahead and get into some introduction. Oh, first, before I do that, because there's things, right? Danny McGuffey was going to be here tonight. He's a lucky kind of fool because if things go particularly a certain way, I've had a conversation with Danny earlier on the phone, and he has given me what he would choose to do if a multitude of situations arise tonight. He got a call just about halfway through the day that he had to go be on hold, and he is sitting in an airport right now, getting ready to take some shit and possibly have to go out. And we know Danny's work is very important, so he will not be able to join us. But through the magic of time and all that stuff, I do know what he will do with some of this shit. He was excited to hear some of the things that you guys are going to get ready to hear after a while. Also, Jeremy is on call. We will have him in voice only unless he's able to get home after a bit. There's been a lot of storms and a lot of damage around lately with the tornadoes and things that have hit. And also construction season is hitting hard and heavy right now, so he is on call all the time. It's literally like 7:30 at night on a Sunday right now, and he's having to drive out to deal with things. So, want to thank him for being able to at least be here in voice to try to be a part of this. Having did those things, let's go ahead and jump into introductions, and since Colby's muted, I'll start with Bella. Yeah, that way. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Bella, and I play Sylowen, the now slightly higher level Skylancer, former Maiden of Song.
Awesome. I like how she kind of said that with a question mark on the end of it, like I'm Bella, like Ron Burgundy kind of stuff. It's all good. Next up, Colby, man. Look at you. You unmuted and everything. You are a man determined. Let's hear what you got, buddy. Go ahead.
I'm Colby, and I will be playing Kiltask, who is a barbarian slash ranger, and just witnessed a giant statue that looks like his god Baka rise up the temple he was just in.
Awesome. Yeah,
He also has a beast companion named Loki.
Yes, he does. Which I promise, when we do more outdoorsy stuff, will be a bigger part of what your character does. I know it's not fair to have an awesome Allosaurus like pet, and you're like, stay, buddy. You can't come in here. So I get it. I get it. Yeah, that was kind of cool. It was neat to do the video editing on that episode and just see the shit eating grin that was coming across Colby's face as I'm like doing this graphic stuff. That made it worth it. That was pretty cool, man. So we've been talking since about 6:45, just going through things. We're like I say, we're backing these videos down to one every other week. We talked about it in private and stuff last Sunday, but I just want to go ahead and get that out there. If you're someone that follows up with these stories, we have two different ones going on now. We have Plan A and Plan B, and both of them take a lot of planning, right? And I enjoy this, I really do. But I've got one girl in track in college, the other one's starting to do it. She'll be a freshman next year. I got dad things to teach them, and it takes a lot of time to not just create one good story and edit the video and make the maps, and I do it gladly. But I have to cut back on how much time I'm spending on it. It's been ridiculous. It's been a lot of time. But, after speaking with about this with everybody. They're appreciating the work that I'm putting into it, and they're having a good time. And because of that, I'm having a good time. But we're going to back it down a little bit because I didn't want to pump the brakes on this and be like, hey, we got to live, we got things to do, and then people say, well, if I can't do a weekly game, I'm out. I didn't want to lose it because it's lucky. You're lucky, and it's rare to find a group of people that are creative, that are charismatic enough to do this kind of shit, or have enough imagination to be able to pull it off and get into the characters, and build. And when you find that, you've got to do what you can to keep that thing going. But 15, 20 hours a week gets to be a bit much, right? So that's why we're going to start putting these out every other week. And the goal is that in 3 or 4 sessions, we hope to be concluded with the Tenosia arc of the story of Plan A. Okay? Once that happens, and we've all kind of decided on this, we talked about in group and then on last Sunday for those that could attend. And we are going to take those characters and they are going to become NPC playable characters. What I mean by that is they are going to go back to the city of New Gemdar, or if there's somewhere different they choose to go to. Those that survive, hopefully everybody, And then they are going to help me co-write their own stories. We write it one chapter at a time. I say it every episode, right? And what better time to help write more chapters than when it has to do with your character's story. So for instance, Colby, we kind of talked about this. When we get back to the city, Colby may stay behind and want to do things in Tenosia. Or he might want to go to New Gemdar and extend the reach and try to recruit new Atladi warriors. And try to send on that belief of being able to take on large creatures and why that's important to the natural order of things. And try to create warriors and recruit people to actually go back to his homeland and help it become, help fuel the powerful Atladi warrior group that once used to roam there, rebuild. And I was like, that's a great idea. So what will happen is he'll be an NPC. We'll co-write that with the idea. And then if we choose to jump on that arc, Kill Tusk is back in action and I'll take over and go with it. So they're not shelved. They're becoming an awesome part of the world. Sylowen may have a song that she's trying to write and needs strings for her harp or lute or something that comes from some kind of rare animal's whiskers or some stuff. And she may ask a group to go on a quest to find those for her or aid her in going and looking for them herself. Herself. Sylowen comes out of retirement. We've come up with the idea together, and we run with it. So it's nice. It does both things. It keeps these characters alive and going, and it also gives us room to focus on Plan B, which are the characters that they created from scratch, which are the ones that are, I know they're all dear to your heart, and I get that, and I appreciate it, but that's your bread, and that's your absolute, your creation in the world that I've helped kind of make. So that's the one we're going to focus on, and then it will be Plan B every other week. And Plan B will be a consistent thing moving forward unless we decide to pull on the thread of one of the other NPCs from Plan A. Did I explain that well? I mean, Bella, if you didn't know what the hell I was talking about, would that make sense? Okay, good enough. Okay. By the way, Bella has, once again, we can't see her, but she just gave me double thumbs up and shook her head yes. So trust me when I say she gets it. Okay? All right, so lots of stuff. Last place we were. We'll sum this up because we've already discussed it, but I want folks to know in case it's been a minute. Kobe, his character, Kiltusk, Valdera, and the Scion Karsu rocketed out of here because they heard shit going. They heard water flowing and large stone gears being pulled, and something was shaking and quaking up on top of the water temple of Yoda. They burst outside to see that the battle has all but been won, and what very few Vizillion were left behind are now licking their wounds and getting the hell out of there. As it's triumph, he could hear the cheer of Shakoma and the Ozomen that were like beating their chests and wah, just cheering on about the victory. And from that, the top of the temple opened up, and this large Mechon construct, like 200 foot tall maybe, arose that looks like it's something made of Mechon to resemble Baka, their god, the earth god. Okay? We don't know where it's headed yet. We don't know why it's there, but that's pretty cool. And then inside, if you watch these videos or you watched it in the last one, you know what's going on. But to sum it up briefly, we have decided to help Bouraxl, which is now carrying the spirit of Yeota, which is the woman that her ghost helped guide us through the water temple of Yeota, hence the name. She joined with him because Bouraxl was mortally wounded in the battle outside. And rather than see Karsu give her life in sacrifice to Yeota's spirit so they could join together as many of her kind have done ceremoniously for ages, Bouraxl said, I have limited time and I am a hunter. Join with me and we will go inside of this seraphim together and we will search for the spirit called Ambriel, which we believe is an angelic spirit that is lost inside of this multitude of memories and rooms inside of this other seraphim we've encountered. So it was really neat. It was a touching moment. I enjoyed it. There was some shit we made up there at the spot. It was cool. And now the group has went inside. We have found a way where the whole group was able to travel to the inner realm of Brahmus. And they're all getting to hang out with Mirk, the ghostly paladin version of Mirk, and understanding his dwelling, and we're all going through this place together. And as they go to step out of the room, and they see Mirk jumping from ledge to ledge, from floating doorway to floating doorway inside of this large inner space. The best way to explain this is, when it was just Brahmus, this was the seraphim, the inside of this thing, this place where Mirk lives, was constructed from his memories. So the inside of this place looked like a castle where the laws of physics didn't exactly work. Where each different room inside this large cylindrical structure with oddly shaped stairways that lead from room to room leads to different memories. Some he's repressed, I think is the word. And some are ones that are very near and dear to him. And as we... Oh, just a minute. Disney was getting a little loud upstairs. I had to tell her to turn down a little bit. But now that these two realms have got close, and Brahmus is close to the other seraphim, the worlds have collided. So as where this was once the inside of Brahmus was a place that they could navigate, now it's become so much exponentially larger with all these rooms inside of it because their Ambriel's inside realm is joining with this one. There are doorways that are sitting upon chunks of what seems to be like broken off courtyards and stuff just spinning in space out here, creating this maze of all these different openings and open and shut doors. Pieces of memories float through here. And in the distance, on one large chunk of existence, I guess you could call it, several towers and ruins are floating off in the distance as if they have their own orbit slowly, but off in the distance quite a ways. And they see one door brighter than all the others. And they've decided they need to make it to that door. That would be the way and the place that Bouraxl, carrying Yoda's soul, could actually venture into Ambriel and possibly find her. Because she's lost in here. So where I'd like to start tonight Um, and mind you, I know Jeremy's driving, so I'll try to give him a little heads up when it's going to be his turn so he can get ready. But I want to go ahead and start Kill Test. We're going to get to you because some of the things that happen in here affect the outside. We're going to get to you here in just a few, okay? So just enjoy the ride and things. But for now, we're going to speak with Bella. Okay, we're going to speak with Sylowen a little bit. You see Mirk, and you've seen him many, many times. You've been in here and you've trained with him. You understand that you've seen him grow lately in ways that you would have never thought were possible. As the Mirk from before didn't have a beard, as the Mirk from before didn't have this kind of look to his hair, and you've seen him step outside of Brahmus many times and you realize he's evolving. And as you look at him, and he's looking in the distance trying to size up how to get from where we're at to where that light is in the distance. Do you have any kind of words of encouragement, or do you have any kind of plan? You see several different doors. You know, you have a jumping ability beyond anyone else in this group. But you also have seen the struggle that Mirk had, jumping from place to place, and this is almost like no gravity in spots. So you feel as if you jumped, you may just jump straight up and just get lost and caught in it and start drifting too. Almost like the space movies where the astronauts just bound from the shuttle and don't know how to get back. So, nothing funner than being on the spot in D&D, but you guys chose to come in here. So I'm curious, and Jeremy, you can chime in at any time, okay? Since you two are the ones here, I want you to kind of come up with an idea how you plan on getting from here to there. Ask me questions, I will paint a picture for you, and I will make some rolls for Bastille and see if he has any insights while you guys do this. So,
Do you think there's a way we have any rope?
Bastille kind of looks at you and raises an eyebrow and he goes, I've got some rope, but I don't... Are you thinking maybe just to anchor something still so we can get to it, or are you thinking about using it over and over again? Because I have some, but it's not, this isn't an endless amount.
What I'm thinking is if there's a way that it could be tied to me or my lance, and either I hop up there and secure it, or I shoot my lance up there, and one side stays down here, either held by Mirk or tied to something here, we may be able to get like a climbing rope up there. And then if I get very I'm trying to think, are there balloons in Ulran?
You know what? Fuck yeah, there are.
Okay.
Why not, dude? Oh,
So
yeah.
she's like, well, in case I become like a balloon, if I have a rope tied to me, then I could be reeled back in.
He looks at you for a minute and kind of thinks on that. And he ponders this for a minute. And he says, that could work. Let me make a roll real quick. That's outstanding, actually. Okay. So, as Bastille kind of steps up and you see a couple pieces of debris come off the edge of that step before he would just walk off into the void with all these doorways. You know, some are 15 foot, some are 25 foot, some are like 30 foot away. They're just kind of floating and they're rotating slowly. You know what I mean? So there's nothing like, holy shit, I'm going to catch you by. You know, it's not like that. They're moving slow in space out here, right? And when he kicks those little pieces of rock off, you see him kind of break off and drift in the distance. And he looks down and he looks at his dagger for a minute. He goes, I can also, you know, in true Bastille fashion, he says, I can also teleport to where I throw my dagger to. You've seen me do this before. He says, but I wonder if you could throw it if you get in trouble, and I could go to where you throw this dagger. And he thinks on it for a minute. It probably has to be me. I have to be the one that would perform the act if I were to throw this.
So rope ladder it is.
He kind of looks at it hesitantly because he likes coming up with like some crazy shit, right? And he's kind of like, yeah.
I think she like bounces on the balls of her feet a little bit and she's like, I don't know, there's something about it. I feel like a little bit more energized. I think I got this. And that is the in character version of why I'm saying that she is now level 8 and has an increase of 10 feet.
I like it. That's awesome. That isn't it nice how that plan comes together. Look, Colby. Colby's like, that's pretty good. That's awesome. So Bastille gets that rope out. And just by chance, Jeremy, do any of you know what the standard amount of rope is that a person has in an adventurer's pack? Because if not, I'm going to make shit up.
I think it's typically 50.
Okay.
50's
great, if that's the case.
I'm gonna look it up.
I know Jeremy's like, I'm not flipping through the book.
50.
Is it 50? Okay, fucking A. We got 50. So, as Bastille gets this stuff out, I'm going to do a roll just to see if there's anything special about it. 20 is amazing. 1 is not. Yeah. It's standard rope. There's nothing fancy about this at all with a 5. Okay? Bastille's many things, but he is not a rope connoisseur. Obviously tonight. Sorry, Danny. Right? So he gets that out, and he looks over at Mirk. And he kind of looks him up and down. He goes, it's really nice to see you outside like this, but this is one of them times where we could really use Brahmus right now to be a good anchor. He says, how strong are you feeling? Can you help me hold this in case she gets out there too far? Jeremy, you're on. What do you have to say to that?
I'm by no means as strong as Brahmus, but I am faster.
Okay.
Perhaps that could come in handy.
Okay. And Mirk thinks on this Bastille thinks on this for a minute. And he's always asking these kind of questions, so I automatically want to ask you as well. He goes, I know that some of these rooms are made up of your thoughts as much as they are of Ambriel's at this point. He goes, if you think one of those doorways has anything to do with you, do you think you'll have more control over yourself as far as, just not floating off in those places than you would if the doorway we choose to go through doesn't have to do with a memory that you have? And if you want to investigate that, you can do religion, arcana, you can do anything. You've worked in here and explored this place for years, so you would know better than I even know. So
Brahmus tends to yield to me. He knows where my steps will land. He knows where my aim is, maybe before I do. Okay. However, where we've clashed worlds with Ambriel, I'm not so certain that'll be the case. One step, Brahmus might be there. The next, he might not. As for the doors, just in this little bit of time, I've already encountered her memories.
Go ahead.
I feel we might be closer to her world than we'd like to think.
Okay. And by the way, Jeremy, your voice is coming across just fine. It sounds a little radio, but for what we're dealing with, it's perfectly good, bud. So just keep it up, okay? When you say that, Bastille has a moment. He looks over at Sylowen and back at you. And he looks over at Bouraxl. which is standing kind of behind the rest of us. The bleeding has stopped in Bouraxl. And you can see this illumination that kind of surrounds him in his place because Yota's soul was very present. And at that point, Bastille kind of takes a step back because Bouraxl begins to step forward, and he has something to add. This is the first time I think Bouraxl has seen Mirk, right? Is that fair, Jeremy?
I believe so. Unless he was around the time that Sylowen was struck by that psionic blast.
I don't think he was. I think he was fighting Vizillion off in the distance and shit. So this is an interesting moment. And as he comes up and looks at you with wonder, you know, Bouraxl's not the kind of person to say, whoa. You know, he's not going to do the Keanu Reeves like, whoa. You know, but there is that amazement. And you recognize this look very well. It's the same one that Killtusk used to give you all the time. When he first saw what you really were and put like flesh and bone and blood and realism to the legends of their own mythos. It's pretty incredible shit. You know what I mean? It's pretty neat. And when he looks at you, he looks out there and he holds his hand up. And he kind of looks up and he says, do any of these seem to represent or look like anything you remember? Any door that maybe you've traversed before? So, Jeremy, I'm going to have you roll an either insight or perception check, and here's what's going to happen. I'm going to roll it for you, okay? But I want you to tell me if you can remember what your modifier might be to it. We're going to do it just like you're an NPC, okay? I'll do a 1d20, and the dice added to that will be a 4, 6, or 8, depending on how good your character is of that shit.
Sounds good.
So, in this, tell me what kind of check you would want to roll and why.
I would probably go with the history check.
And that's going to be...
Mostly because, you know, I'm checking to think of the doors that I've been in before and trying to recollect. Because I'm sure Brahmus is built to what Mirk remembers, and maybe the interior of Ambriel looks different. So it's kind of trying to differentiate the two. Maybe the doors for her are different than mine.
Okay. All right, so just for the hell, well, let me see if I can bring something up here real quick. Actually, so I don't have to just roll it in person, I think I'll be able to bring up my dice roller program. I just want to make sure that my computer can handle it, and then I can do that. So just 1 second here. In a second it decides to load and let me do this. We'll see how this goes. Okay, there we go. Let's see if I can turn this on now. Dice roller. See if it'll let me do it or not. Oh, I know what the problem is. It's behind that. It needs to be above it. Like that! Ho ho! Fancy, fancy! Okay, so let's go ahead. Move this in a little bit. And what I'm looking to do is I'm looking to roll for you. What do you think? What is your bonus typically to that kind of roll, Jeremy?
I think history is a +4, and then if you let me, I'd like to add one more for my archaeological skill.
Okay, so 5. So we're rolling a 1d20 plus 5. Okay, let me go ahead and get in here, and I'll zoom in on this a little bit and make sure that I'm doing this right. Just a minute, buddy. Okay, and I'll roll here. If it'll let me. Sorry about that. I'm having just a little bit of trouble. And if this doesn't work out, we can always do it a different way. Are you sure? Okay. I don't think it'll handle it. I don't know if it's going to let me do this or not, Jeremy. Just a minute. Let's go ahead and use Yeah, okay, let's do that. Okay, let's go ahead and take that down. Okay, let me see here. There we go. Okay. So let's try to roll. We're going to focus on this bad boy here, and let's go ahead and roll now. We're going to add 5 to this. That is a 10. Which it was a 10. Rolled to a 12, but it was a 10 initially. 10 plus 5 is 15. With a 15, you are able to look out in the distance, and there are 3 doors immediately that the rope would reach. Okay. None are really quite out at 50 foot. They're either within that 25, 30 foot area, or they're beyond it. So there's going to have to be leaping between door to door, right? Like, it's almost like when you see this from that kind of thing, you know that this is going to work almost like wormholes, where you may go into one door, have a memory, encounter something that happened either to you or her, and then pop out another one on down closer to your destination. It's going to be interesting. Only one of these doors looks familiar to you. Okay? And with a 15, with the look of that door and about the age of it, I'm going to say it is a memory that has to do with, let's say, training in New Gemdar, the first time that you got to meet the old king, Omadon's father. There's an actual crest on that door, and you believe that is a memory that would be beyond that one. That would be the furthest one to reach away. That one's like between 30 and 40 foot away. The other 2 are significantly closer. That's the only one you recognize. Mirk.
I want to go to the first one away, the one that I would recognize. But at the same time, my thoughts are, if we happen to encounter any of her memories along the way, there's going to be more about her that we know. And it'll be more that we have to show our support as an ally, rather than make her feel like, we're an enemy of some sort.
That's interesting. Okay.
Kind of like a moment of, look, even for only a moment, I was in your shoes. I know what you've been through.
That's
and that way, there's kind of a negotiation there. That way, she doesn't just outright think that Mirk is some usurper that whoever has before him.
Yeah, and also think about some of the conversations before where she thought all was lost because you weren't an angel in this thing.
Right.
And some of those conversations. So yeah, I just want to say, yeah, great course of thought. That's very interesting. Continue. Pull on the thread, buddy.
So if he can determine that either one of the other 2 doors may not be his, that's going to be his target.
Okay. Neither one of them are. And they are as foreign to you as you could imagine. The only reason they probably even look like doors is because that's a way that you would be able to recognize them in this place. They are not of any kind of entryway to any kind of building or any memory that you have. One is roughly, going to be 23 foot away. And the other one is going to be 38 foot away. Those are actual rolls. So that's what you've got. That's what you guys are looking at. So how do you want to convey that to Bouraxl just for roleplay purposes? And then we'll move on, Jeremy.
I know the door that is mine. However, I feel it would benefit us most to encounter some of her life, some of her memories.
Okay.
If
And
we're to traverse the door, I believe the first door would suffice.
okay, and Mark, correct my memory here, Jeremy, because it's been a minute, right? When you
Yep.
went through and you got those flashes of the other things that happened, when you saw Ambriel in flesh and blood in those memories, and you saw her get pretty much, slain and sent to this thing. Remember how that was really cool, actually. Have you shared that information with anyone else yet, or are you keeping that private?
I don't think I've shared it yet, and that wasn't so much that I saw it as I was it.
Okay.
I was looking through her eyes.
Yeah. Yep. I remember you looked out and saw Ambriel's hand and saw the red hair
Yeah.
and saw what was going on. Man, that was cool. That was a spontaneous thing too. When that happened, that was fun. So when you say that, you look over, and at this point, Sylowen, Bast is coming up to you, and he's looking at a knot he's made, and he's double and triple checking it to make sure it's going to be secure. And you see concern on him, whereas usually, just as well as anybody, he tries to play it pretty cool. He's really focused on this. Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, he puts a knot and things in this of the likes that you've never even seen a sailor attempt. Okay. And in that, he hands that to you, and he says, "It's on you now." He goes, "You got this." And he looks at Mirk, and he hands him the other end, and he grabs onto it and kind of gives him a nod, and there's a bunch of slack there. Which one of these do you want to tell her to aim for? Brahmus or Mirk, and then I'll let you two kind of role play that out, and we'll move forward.
She has a total of 40 feet, by the way.
Okay, so that means you could just barely reach the very last one just by chance on this, which is awesome. Can't make that kind of shit up, dude. The rolls do what the rolls do. That's really cool. So
It was the first door, the closest one.
All right. I think she kind of like.
hey, Autumn, come here.
I think she like cracks her knuckles a little bit, stretches, and she's like pauses for a second. She's like, "Oh, by the way, I like the look. Looks good for you." And then she jumps.
Sorry, guys. Just want to say something. You're doing just fine, but that thing's getting really loud and really low. You notice that? Okay, so you got to stop. Okay, you got to turn it down. You got to control it. All right. All right. Thank you. Okay. All right. The TV has a thing where when the volume wants to have these real high highs and low lows. It's a bipolar TV. Is what it is. So it's got that whole thing going on. So you're definitely going for the first one. What did we say it was? 27, 28 foot. What did we end up saying the closest one was, guys?
I think it was 20. Was it 24 and 38?
I think so. I'm going to write that down. 24 and 38.
I could be wrong.
Hey, you know what? If I wanted to be closer than that, I would have wrote the shit down myself. Right? It's my fault. If you snuck a couple foot off there, it's my own fault. It's all good. But I think you're correct. So, tell me how you want to do this. What is the plan here? Are you going to jump up and then try to reach out with the lance and strike this thing or are you just going to try to bound over to it from where you're at and land with the lance to anchor yourself in that spot?
That one, the second one.
Okay. Because I know you have an ability also to throw a lance and then move to its location, similar to what Danny does, correct? Do you have that ability or not?
The opposite. She can throw the lance and then have it come back to her.
Oh, right. That's right. Okay, cool. Which does us no good at all here, right?
Ironically, it could be helpful if we're trying to get back or type thing where, like, if she can throw it, everybody makes their way across and then she pulls it back. But that's not what we're trying to do right now.
Or maybe you just get a chance like Colby and just want to hit somebody with your stuff, and then you could lance them and then pull them back stuck on the thing. That's great, Not everybody gets to have the fun of shooting their friends like Colby does. It's all good.
He
No,
offered.
I mean, you rolled a 20 too, which was fantastic when that happened. So, absolutely. Well, then, I suppose I will let you choose if you want to do an acrobatics or athletics check to be able to pull this off. Let me know which one you're choosing first before you roll.
Acrobatics.
I figured.
Yeah.
I've got the DC here, and this has to do with how the rotation, the particular threads you're going through. This, once you step up and look at this and you're getting ready to take the jump, Sylowen, you see an inconsistency in the way things flow through here. Like I say, some of these doorways are spinning very, very slow, almost as if they're not moving. Then all of a sudden you'll see bits of like particles of rock and debris, and maybe like a piece of scabbard of some kind of armor go float through here. Maybe you'll see a feather that comes in existence for a minute and then disappear. And everything is at different kind of times and things. So this is a turbulent thing. This is not all like outer space, okay? And I have your DC. Go ahead and roll your check and we'll see how you do. Oh, you didn't. Oh.
It's a 2 plus her 4, so 6.
Okay. Hey, I have a lot of fun when you roll low. Now, I don't know how much fun you're going to have, but I have a ball. So, when you jump across here, and you get up into the air, and you are headed in that direction, I'm going to say you take a few steps back, and you bound off, and you stick your head forward with that wyvern-like crest down, and you're got the fins pointed back, and you're headed in the right direction, and you're feeling it. Your momentum is great. And at some point when you go through there, all of a sudden you get that feeling in your gut like something's slowing down. Something's not, and you almost feel yourself wanting to be like, further! Right? And it's just not quite going. And you're not sure if it was just because you were uncertain. You don't know if it's just the difficulty of this obstacle, or it's the rope being around you that messed you up. But you make it about halfway over to that. You're between 10 and 15 foot out into this, and all of a sudden you stop slowly. And as that happens, you begin to kind of turn counterclockwise. And at that point, when you do that, Bastille's like, bring her back. Now, start pulling. Okay? Is there anything you're saying at this point? I want you to roll me a composure check, and it is going to be charisma. And let me know what you get.
Composure check?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So I rolled a 5. What's that?
Woo! Get him out of the way.
You said it was charisma?
I did.
So 8.
Okay. So with an 8, you begin to panic. Okay? And you feel yourself with that spear, and you start going through your mind, like you almost start thinking of irrational things that you don't know if would work or not, things that you didn't even plan on in this moment. This is something very new to Sylowen, right? So you're thinking about, I can't do the one thing, it can only come, like our conversation just a minute ago before this. It can come back to me, I can't go to it. And you're looking around to see if there's anything, and there's some rubble, like a brick or two goes by, and you actually put your foot on it and go to kick off of it to see if you can push yourself more in that direction, and it just pushes it off and starts you rotating in an even stranger kind of way. And now you're almost laterally, almost like in a laid down position versus where you came from. And you feel this rush of, you're losing, almost like you're very disoriented. Does that make sense? Because you're twisting in this way. Is there anything you would want to say? And please play to the role that you made.
I think I mean, even just for a full transparency between player and character,
Yes.
I literally pulled up her bard spell list, and I'm like scanning if there's anything in there that she could use. Like,
That's cool.
I'm like looking at it. I'm like, mage hand, maybe. No, that won't work. Healing word, no, that won't work. And like, even like to play that into the character, she's even like going back to those aspects of like, this
So
isn't
great.
working right now. Like, do I have something? Is there like a spell that the people back in the Maiden of Song taught her? She's like maybe flapping her one wing, trying to like divert it.
Oh wow, yeah.
Divert herself a little bit or almost propel forward type thing. But
Oh.
she only has one wing, so she's lopsided, so that probably isn't helping too much and probably just causing her to circle more.
Yeah, I get it. Mirk, do you have an idea? Are you going to join Bastille as he's like, pull her back now? Do you have something you want to do to try to help her complete this jump? Do you have something in clutch here that might work, or do you want to start yanking?
He's going to try to yell to her first. And if it
Go
doesn't
ahead.
seem like she's going to respond, then he's going to thaumaturgy his voice.
Okay.
Make it a whole lot louder
Okay.
to kind of snap her out of it.
Okay.
It's just going to be, Sylowen, listen to me.
Go ahead and roll persuasion with advantage because you're using thaumaturgy.
Let's see if I can pull that up.
If you just want to tell me what your dice would it be, I'll roll it for you.
I'll say I am parked, so I should be able to pull it up quick.
Oh, cool. Okay, cool.
Mayhaps we shall see.
And if not, if it's going to be like 5 minutes trying to find it, just go ahead and tell me, and we can do it, or however you want to play this. Interesting. Sometimes the silliest shit ends up being an interesting thing. You know what I mean? It's how we always said. Sometimes we just take our time going through stuff, and this is an example of it. But it's fun, so we'll see what happens. Jeremy, are you going to be able to pull it off, or you want me to go ahead and roll?
Sorry, I have the contractor pull up on me.
Okay.
As you know, those things happen in this line of work.
Well, you are working. Yeah, it's fair.
Persuasion.
To be fair, just like a little anecdote, I have a game that I play that's all I play 2 games, they're both virtual. And then one time I had a guy in my other game who was also working when he was playing, and then like he was dealing, like you hear him and he's like, hold on, I gotta roll. Oh wait, we're dealing with a break-in right now. The police want to talk to me 1 second. And then like an hour later, just like, all right, so I'm in a different location. Anyway, so what am I rolling?
That's awesome.
Like actively playing D&D in the middle of the field, and like that's what Jeremy's doing too.
Hell yeah, dude.
It happens. There has to be time to put a little fun in work,
Right.
Dedication.
That's fucking dedication right there.
Absolutely. I got a 13.
With advantage?
Yes.
Okay. So, Bella, go ahead and roll. So when you're trying to persuade, what is it, Jeremy, that she would typically roll to see if she comprehends? Is it wisdom?
I would say so. Did that, or kind of like an insight to find his words in the middle of panic, or
Yeah. With that, with what he rolled to try to send out this booming words to calm you down in your history, I want you to roll a insight, but I want you to add a 1d4 to your roll, Bella, from his words, because it's not quite enough to give you advantage, but it is something.
That can I have something that may help with potentially with advantage?
What would that be?
She has the friendship bracelet from him. In the sense of that could be a grounding force that connects her to him.
I will do that for you just because you were clever enough to say it, yes.
Okay. Because I know it says +1 AC in saving throws. This isn't technically a saving throw, but
Well,
like
kind of
kind of.
is. Yeah, it kind of is. So that's cool. I'm glad you remember that. So we'll let that work.
Saving smithing.
What'd you do, Bella? Did you roll 2 ones?
No, it's a 6 plus you said wisdom?
Uh-huh.
7.
Plus a D4.
Oh no, it's because
Well, no, she rolled with advantage instead of the D4.
Ah.
So,
Damn
in
it.
that, yeah, so in that moment, Brahmus, you're not able to reach her. She is in such a panic state that she is not hearing the words that you are trying to say to her. Yes,
I
Bella.
have something. I think I may know why he's not getting through to her.
Please elaborate.
Because I think in this moment, she may not only be panicking because she's adrift, but there's a panic of, oh no, I'm letting them down and I'm messing this up type thing.
Uh-huh.
And I think her mind actually may be going back to the Maidens of Song. That kind of thing of like, she's not fulfilling her purpose, like what if she gets left behind, that sort of thing. Because I know
okay.
that she was like she had the whole thing where the ritual happened, but then they rejected her when she came back, right?
Yes.
So it's that type of thing of like, I think that may be popping up type thing a little bit. And being that it's inside Mirk Brahmus memory area type thing, would it be feasible that maybe there's an intensity to her remembering, or if something passes through her head, almost it gets amplified a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the dice reflect it, so you might as well go with it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm saying that's exactly it. So in that moment, I'm gonna roll. You know, Bast has already given you his reaction. So if you would please, Jeremy, tell us what you're doing now that she is going through this and she's having, you know, internal struggles that you can not see everything about, but you know it is not reaching her.
So, I had a thought.
Uh-huh.
Technically, it sounds like it worked really well.
Okay.
So, we'll see how it pans out.
Now, mind you, I'm only going to let us do so many things in a short amount of time. So at this point, she's already been drifting for a few moments, and you guys have a hold, and you have her anchored. And Bastille at this point is kind of looking at you as if to say, why aren't we pulling? But I just want you to know that time is really moving on, so I'm not going to let everyone have like 1,000 ideas in a 6-second frame of time. So this will be one of the last ideas before you do something here.
So, basically, he's going to be pulling on the rope, but while also under his breath. He's being like, just come on, Brahmus. Put me out. And as he's doing that, he's trying to... He's basically, in a way, trying to reach Brahmus and convince him, like, hey, we need a platform here. We need something sturdy. Hook me up, brother.
And who are you saying this to?
Brahmus. Like, is Mirk communicating directly with Brahmus? Be like, help me out. Need something, man.
Oh, so what is the overall concept? What are you trying to accomplish with this request?
Trying to get just something solid for her to plant her feet on. Like, he's pulling back just in
Okay,
case nothing.
here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I'm going to do. As you do that, I'm going to have you do a history check, which is remembrance. And I've got a DC in mind. And if you're able to beat that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you put some piece of a fragment of some memory in there, but it's going to be up to you, Jeremy, since you're trying this shit. It's going to be up to you to paint me the picture. Like you could imagine, imagine like one time a kid's playing hopscotch on a piece of asphalt outside of a school, and all of a sudden that piece of asphalt comes into materialization out there in front of you, because this place does yield to your memories, right? So it's up to you. I'm giving you a chance, but you're going to have to be damn creative and roll a decent remembrance roll to pull it off.
I got a 16.
16 does it. Go ahead and paint me a picture. What is it you're trying to manifest into being? And tell us a little story about Brahmus and why you're picking this memory. It's only fair, right?
And it's going to be a manifestation, and it's going to be one that he had recently.
It can't be hopscotch. I already took that.
Right.
Okay.
I'd like to think that as Sylowen's freaking out, because she's in here, so she's kind of not in the memory, but almost a part of the memory.
Right.
And she's going to find her feet coming to rest in grass, right next to what appears to be a very defeated Mirk. And what she's going to see is a heavily armored man standing in front of Mirk, telling him to get up. Giving up is not his thing. It's not what he does. It's not what he was trained to do.
Okay.
And she's going to find herself standing maybe 5 feet away from that very overwhelmed, young, inexperienced Mirk.
Okay. So, I'm going to... You've done it, but I'm going to paint it a little bit more vivid, because I remember I'm the one that gave you that, right? So, do you remember the actor Dolph Lundgren, the one that played the Russian in the Rocky movies, like, I Will Break You? Like that guy?
If he dies,
Bella, do you know who he is? He played He-Man in the Masters of the Universe movie.
I vaguely.
Oh, God. Okay, anyway, he's a very tall, very chiseled, tall, stern-looking individual with crew-cut blonde hair. He could play Godzilla in like a Street Fighter movie. Yeah, he was in the Expendables also lately.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you see him kind of snickering and stuff and looking down, and he's saying this, and you see this memory of Mirk laying there, beat up on a battlefield on this little plateau. I'm going to say like a 10 by 10 foot piece of what looks like a field, like grass floating in a chunk. Just like, I'll tell you how many feet from you. 4 feet away from you as it spins, and you see Mirk, younger, hair all pulled back into like a braid on the back, no beard, clean shaven, and him telling him, you know, almost a quintessential "get up, rock, you're a bum" kind of shit. And he's really using this deep voice, and he's telling him, it's like, you're not done. There are battles yet to be fought. You need to stand back up. This is not what we trained for. Rise to your feet, Mirk.
I have a thought.
What is your reaction to this as this piece of land spins in your direction, roughly as if it's being... you see Mirk in this, but I don't know if you'd be able to exactly know how this is happening. You would see Mirk in the distance holding onto that rope.
I have a thought, and I have a particular image that's in my head, but I'm not sure if it works at all.
Just tell me and we'll see what happens. D&D, it can be fantastic. It already is.
So, you know, the instability of memories and the fact that Mirk is physically in the space.
Yep.
The thought that almost comes to mind is she sees this. She's like still trying to wrap her head around it. She knows that's Mirk.
Yep.
And like she's still almost like in a fog to a degree, so she tries to step closer to help him. And then because of the instability of the memory, there's a part of me that almost pictures like almost like dust, or like the Avengers snap, like almost like the two forms like, you know, segment away. Do you know what I mean?
I do, yes.
That
Now-
like the minute you try to interact with it, then it's broken to a degree, because that's a fixed point in history.
Yeah, it's almost like when you're starting to have a memory of a dream, and when you realize you can reach out for it, it starts to fade off.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. So, tell me how that translates into what you're doing. like on dice and physically here?
I think she may be, because she is so flustered currently.
Uh-huh. We're going to let you re-roll
Mhm.
with the addition of this.
Okay. So, meaning whether or not she finds her footing on this?
If you choose to.
Okay. Alrighty. So yeah, I think that although she's flustered and still sort of like a little bit fragmented and isn't quite sure what's going on,
Uh-huh.
there is that sort of grounding bit of this is somebody she genuinely cares about a lot, who needs assistance, who's physically in front of her right now, more attainable than, way down below type
Okay.
thing.
What do you think you should roll for this? And tell me why.
I think it would be acrobatics again just to get her footing enough.
Okay.
Um,
Roll me a basic roll me a basic perception check first. And let me know
Okay.
what you get. There's a reason.
Perception. 11.
Okay. That dictates the next thing.
Okay.
So you're wanting to roll in acrobatics, and tell me, what do you want to do? Do you want to throw the lance, since it's 4 foot away? Do you want to try to spear the lance into it from a distance and pull yourself to his aid? Are you trying to, because that's about the only way you would be able to come into contact with this piece of ground. It's like 4 foot away from you, over to the distance below you. You couldn't just think about it and float to it. You know what I mean? You're going to have to do something to interact with it and get it. The lance is one method, or if you have some other spell way of getting to it. But once you come into contact with it, it will give you another pedestal of which you can jump from to get to the door.
Do you think when she throws her lance, there's a bit of force in both directions?
You have abilities that would let you do that. You have that one, I forget the name of the ability, but it puts up an extra blast of shit when you do hit.
Because I'm trying to think, when you're like hypothetically in zero gravity, when you throw something, the force also goes back, so you drift away from it too?
Yes, I do. I know what you mean.
Yeah. So I think she's trying to do that with her lance.
Okay. Go ahead
And then I'm trying to think of what that spell specifically would be to add more oomph onto it.
It's not this actual spell.
I mean, well, the lance thing. Let me see.
Yeah, what is that called again, Jeremy? Do you remember? It's like
Aerial assault, or is it a bolting lance?
it's a it talks about when it breaks the image of a dragon. She either has a bunch of energy that from the place that she takes off from, or it's the place that she impacts. It's that one of those. It's that one.
Is it No, I don't have. I'm not 9th level yet. Bolt lance? No.
No. It's not bolting lance. It's one a little bit before that. It's like, oh hell, I wish I could remember. I'd pull it up, but
I'm trying to look right now.
okay.
They like Gale Force something.
Gale Force Assault. Yes.
Yeah, Gale Assault is 9th level.
Okay. What do you have? You're 8th, right?
Yeah,
So, do you have the bolting lance ability?
I do.
A description of that, will that help you?
Starting at 6th level, your Lancer gains the ability to use their major action along with 7 MP, rush forward, becoming a bolt of one type of elemental energy. But the elemental energy I need to get from... Do you think that you said there's a lot of stuff popping in and out of existence?
There is.
Do you think... I'm trying to think if there's a way... No, it has to be an elemental empowered attack. So that won't work.
And there is always the option of just trying to reach out with your lance and strike the ground and pull yourself to it. It is only 4 foot away.
Yeah.
So you could reach it because you have reach with that glaive that you have. You could reach it out and see if maybe this memory would grab it, or you could try to strike at the ground and anchor yourself and pull yourself. That would be.
Well, being that it is just that short amount, even if she throws it with enough force anyway, it should push her enough in that direction, no?
I would think, yeah. I'm just
Okay.
going to have you roll an attack roll, see how you do.
Okay. Attack roll is... what again?
What was it?
I'm trying to think what dice to roll.
1d20 plus
Oh.
your modifiers, which I think is like a 7 or 8. So in the middle of of your character sheet,
so
there's...
I rolled a 17 without any modifiers.
Okay. And I just want to tell you for future, in the
Yeah.
middle of your sheet are your weapons column.
Yeah.
All the way to the end on the right, and it'll tell you your attack bonus at the end.
Oh, attack bonus is 4 plus 4 plus 4.
12.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
So 17 plus 12. Yes. You heave that thing in an opposite direction, and the push off from the physical thing drives you back, and your feet land securely on the ground right beside this. It feels real. This doesn't feel like an illusion, which really messes with you because Mirk is there and he's here, right? Now, do you do the ability that draws your lance back to you? Okay. Make sure to deduct those MP from your sheet, or just keep a record of it. And as you land, Jeremy, would you like to tell her
real
what
quick,
she sees or how that interacts with her before she makes her next step?
did we reset HP and MP? Or is it still from way back?
It's still from when we fought the water elemental. There's not been a long rest here.
Okay, alrighty. I just want to make sure I pulled up the right sheet.
Yep.
So I would like to think that she is able to, like, as she gets her feet planted, it's almost like that memory is frozen, where this guy's got his hand out to pull Mirk up, and Mirk's got his hand up about to grab it, but that's where it's frozen.
Okay. Okay. So, having said that, are you trying to rebound off of that land now, Sylowen, or what's the next move?
I'm trying to think how...
You've only got half the distance to go now, which is going to be roughly 15 foot.
Okay, so I think what she may try to do is, after taking a moment to catch her breath,
Yeah.
I think she may try to tie the rope to her lance and then use that instead.
Throw it across and anchor herself?
Throw it across to anchor it.
Okay. So,
then, yeah.
I get it, but you know what that means.
Yeah.
You have to ask Bastille and Mirk to let you go.
So she can do it technically without getting permission from them. That just means she'll be adrift on this little island because she would untie it from herself and tie it to the land, so then they have the bridge to the door.
Okay. As you begin to do that, Bastille's reaction. Okay. How would he verbalize that? That's interesting. As you do that, and he feels slack in the rope, and he turns and he sees what you're doing. He looks in frustration, and he would go to say, Mirk, he would go to say something to her, but he's like, fuck. We're gonna have to get her. She's not thinking right. I can't. And he goes to grab one of his daggers, like he's getting ready to throw it that direction to try to teleport to where he's at, because he's kind of, in his mind, he's not overreacting, but he's worried about what's going on. He doesn't know what she's going through mentally. Mirk, are you saying anything to Bastille in this moment where he's like, I can't fucking, and he goes to grab the dagger? You know what he's getting ready to try to do.
Does she see this?
No, you're busy trying to untie yourself and tie your lance.
Okay.
Hold, my friend. Take
Um,
yourself to the door.
What do you mean hold? She's seeing stuff out there. I mean, if we hold, she drifts off. Look at this. And he points out, and you can see another piece of something come into fruition and start to materialize in here. And it looks like, let's go ahead and say, there's the shadow imagery of what seem to be two Dareblins, like two demons, that come walking across, and they're actually dragging an angel between them as they have it underneath the arms, like they've defeated it, and they're dragging it off, and the wings are spread out behind. There's like the imagery, and it goes to walk past and walk towards her, and as it does, it walks in between where Sylowen's at in this doorway up above here, and it makes the doorway start to shift and move a little bit, and the doorway drifts an extra 4 foot away and begins to rotate. There's a short window of opportunity here where she'll actually be able to land a shot on it and get into it. Does that change anything you're saying? I'm just making this shit up. Dice, you're telling a story.
Anything that me?
Both of you at this moment. You see that, and they kind of come in, and as they come through here like ghosts, and they materialize and look real for a minute, and then you kind of look down like you almost want to make eye contact with this defeated angel, but its head's kind of hanging in between these two as they're marching it forward. Large, big, grandiose horns that come out in the front and scoop up, and heavily armored with these ragged capes that look like they're flags. Ancient flags have just been battered in time. And this is the first time, in silence.
Yeah.
And then as they go past and cause that wake of their being between you and where you're trying to get to, that other piece starts to shift a little bit, and they fade off again into nothing, as if it was a drifting memory.
2 things.
Yes.
1, a side note, and 2, her thoughts on what she's doing.
Yes.
So 1, the side note, I think it's so wild that it's a Dareblin, just because out of my 2 characters, it's the angel descendant and a Dareblin, so that tie is so cool to me.
And Sylowen knows what a Dareblin kind of is because of your studies. You believe these are demons.
Yeah.
You've seen Dareblin, you know what they kind of appear to be, but this is a very enhanced ancient version of them, so you're like, wow, right?
Yeah. If she ever meets Azhara, she's probably not going to have the best reaction to her initially if she sees her in her natural form.
I get that.
Anyway,
I want to hear you argue with yourself in an episode on down the road.
There we go. But anyway, but her thought is that even if she misses, she can call back the lance. I think when she was set adrift, now she's sitting here, she's thinking, okay, I don't have as much control jumping across, and that was awful just now, and I don't want to mess it up again because it could be worse next time. But if I miss the throw, I can call back the lance anyway. So her plan is unchanged.
Okay. Go ahead and throw.
Okay.
I'm going to have you... I don't want to have you roll rolls all night because we got to role play and we got to have fun. I don't want you to roll a natural 1 on like not tying. But I need you to roll a sleight of hand to see how well you're able to anchor this to the spear before your glaive, before you get ready to hack it over there. And then we're going to have you do an attack roll and see, which is easy. I mean, armor class of 10 on the island as it's that doorway is starting to turn from you. It's well within your range. I need to see how well you secured the rope.
You said that's sleight of hand?
Sure. Which is Dex.
Okay, so 8 plus 4, 12.
Okay. You tie that on there, and with all the difficulty you had undoing Bastilles, when you tried to replicate it, you weren't able to quite do that, so you did something that you knew. You almost tied this stuff in a braid like when you used to help braid each other's hairs before you went out there and did the whole Maidens of Song kind of ceremonies. You did what was natural to you in this moment. And you think it'll hold, but you don't know exactly how well. Okay? You've done that. You've tied hair in ceremonial different ways before and whatnot. You've tied knots when you're trying to make the wyvern scales adhere to the armor. You've had some ability to do this. This may not have been their best work, but it's going to have to work for now. Go ahead and roll your attack roll. And at the same time you're doing that, Jeremy, roll a persuasion check. You were very distant. I could hear a murmur of that, but you'll have to say it again, boss. I couldn't hear you.
Just making sounds.
Okay.
I am not able to roll at the moment, but it is a +4 bonus.
Okay, I got it. And Bella, what's yours?
So the attack bonus is 12, right?
Yes. Yes.
I rolled a 7.
19 hits it. You're able to plant your glaive as you throw it through the air hard, pushing off of that. You push that memory of him off with the force that you threw.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're standing on this memory of Mirk's, and it begins to drift. And you're on it, and it's weird that your center of gravity holds you to it no matter what angle it's on. It's very odd. Okay? And you were almost 45 degrees upside down at this point. It is strange for you. You would fully expect for your braids of hair and things to feel weird, like you feel like your cheeks are, but none of that's happening. And it's very disorienting, but your strike does land, but now you are disconnected. As the rope landed to it, pushing you back, which is what you banked on earlier, and now you were adrift on this thing, and you have drifted. Nine feet off from that strong throw. But now, as Bastille does that, and he's getting ready to let go, and Jeremy has rolled this 12 plus his 4, which is a 16. Bastille goes to... It wasn't quite enough. It was just actually you tied it, Jeremy. The DC I had in mind. So in that moment that he's kind of looks at you, and Bastille kind of shakes his head, and he grabs that rope and he gets ready to pull, all of a sudden a tension comes into it that he didn't recognize. He didn't expect. And as you hear a zzz, and it goes through his gloved hands, you see the thing go taut. And all of a sudden that spinning piece of ground, just reaching that very end of that 50 foot, draws that rope tight. And that glaive, with that strong of a throw, landed in that ground on the other side where that doorway seems to be floating, but you don't know how long it's going to last. And Bastille kind of looks at it and it goes tight, and he kind of takes his hands off of it. And he says, we need to get across there. I'll grab her. We need to get moving. What are you saying to this, Mirk?
Can you teleport with someone under arm?
He can't. He just kind of shakes his head no.
By the way, Sylowen totally yells over at this point, you guys better get to that door, or
Yeah.
this will end for nothing.
Actually, let me roll an Arcana for him. Okay, that's a natural 18. Jeremy, with Misty Step, it's only singular, right? I can't grab a person and make him come with me, can I?
Somebody look into that. I don't think so. I think Thunderstep you can. I don't know about Misty Step.
Okay, I'll check it. I got a player's handbook here. Let's check it out real quick. Misty Step. I don't get the books out very often. I don't have it memorized. Let's see here. Thank God for alphabetical order.
It looks like singular.
Need is bonus action.
So it's singular, huh?
Based on my Google, yeah, it's singular.
Okay. Your Google beat me to the draw.
It even reads singular.
Yep. So he cannot do that. He can get to her. He can throw that there, but he can't grab her as he had intended. But if you do have the ability to cast the hand, that could help you.
Help me.
Uh-huh.
So here's what I'm thinking. Does anybody have an elemental, like, attack?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, the thing is, they need to get across the door before she can call her lance back. Because that's what's lodging it right now.
Uh-huh.
But once they get there, if she calls her lance back... well, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, if she calls her lance back, does the rope stay attached?
Yeah.
She could call the lance back to her, and if they are actively holding the other end, then she can be pulled over.
I'll give
or
you that.
Climb over.
I'll
It was
give you
either that, or she was going to say for them to hit her with an elemental attack, and she was going to use that for the elemental bolt.
We can do that.
But the one with the rope seems a little bit more guaranteed secure, but it's time sensitive.
Jeremy, Mirk, you are going to roll either an athletics or acrobatics check to get across the rope. I have a DC in mind. If you fail by 5 or more, it begins pulling away at that glaive and makes it where it is less and less more anchored into that spinning piece of drifting ruinous courtyard that she has the glaive stuck in, that has that one singular door just drifting in it. So, I'll let you choose which one of those you want to roll. As you try to work your way across the rope to that, what is it?
For a 22.
22.
22.
That works. So as Mirk grabs onto this rope, he begins to go hand over foot. And it's weird because you know he is becoming more and more real, but there is still a bit of etherealness to Mercandal in this place. And as he pulls across this, it's very evident in that. The rope doesn't even hardly react to him as the way it would to true weight. And I will say with that, you're able to climb yourself over to the other side and land securely on this doorway that is slowly rotating. Okay? So Mirk, in a quick statement, what are you doing once you land on the other side?
Bast. Get over here. Get her over here together.
Okay. Bastille, is that all you're doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't we have to get across to everybody else?
Well, there's two more. There's Bouraxl, and then there's Bastille, and then you're halfway across on that other little plateau.
She needs everybody to get across, including Bouraxl and Bast.
Right, so Bast is going to be next. I'm going to roll for him now. Let's just have some fun. I'll pull it up on the big screen. I'm going to give him a 1d20 and a 1d8. So what this one and this one add up to, let's go ahead and see what we get. And 17 plus 1, 18 will do it. Okay, so with an 18, Bastille is able to work his way across there, and he kind of slows down halfway across and kind of looks at you. And are you saying anything to him as he's kind of second guessing going past where you're at, Sylowen? He doesn't want to leave you behind on this piece of drifting stuff that's getting further and further away slowly.
He's just like...
Okay. He takes that and gets across, and he is now on the other side. And what he does, he steps by Mercandal very quickly and grabs onto that lance and secures it more deeply into this, so that when Bouraxl comes across, he will not have the same trouble. Now Bouraxl is going to go ahead and grab onto this. And that's going to be a 1d20 and a 1d6. We'll go with this dice here and this one over here. Got a 15 plus 1, 16, just barely does it. He is able to make it across and stands on the other side. And as that happens, Sylowen, what are you doing?
So once everybody is secure on the other side, I think she's like yelling like, pull the rope back up towards you. I'm gonna call my lance back and then reel me in.
Okay. So now here's the thing. Typically, when you can call your lance back, and this is kind of a debatable thing because it's material that's stopping in one place and coming back. So the idea of this bringing back things that are attached to it, I want you to understand something, and I'm going to make this stick as the way you choose to do this.
Okay. Because I have the second plan if it doesn't stay.
Okay. Well,
They need to bring it back in regardless.
I'll let you do that, but it is that way for now on moving forward if you do. So, for instance, if you were to throw this into a creature and it were to get stuck in them in the future, if you wanted to be able to call this thing back to you and it was wedged in there and you couldn't do that, there would be a certain check involved.
Okay, yeah, so,
You can, but you'd have to roll a check if it were stuck in something.
disregard everything she just said.
Okay. You know, I mean, I think it's only fair. I just want to make sure we're consistent.
Oh, yeah,
you know?
absolutely. Yeah.
I have a backup plan if this doesn't work.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool.
So, she may be giving Bast a heart attack.
Yeah.
Because she's gonna say, I want you to reel the rope back in and then shoot an elemental attack at me, please.
He goes, why?
Do you remember? Yeah.
Go ahead.
She's like, I also love the image of her trying to explain this, and she's slowly rotating.
Yeah, like you find yourself like walking around, and he's having to walk around the door and come to the other side because his little pedestals, his land is changing too, and everyone's just kind of walking around like, what? Dude, we're doing what? And it's just very interesting kind of dance.
So I think she yells, do you remember what happened when when I asked the Osman to hit me, or when because she had that interaction on the pyramid when she taunted the I forget it was an Osman or
it was an Ozaman, but it was one of those ones that had been
corrupted.
Corrupted, yes.
She's
That's
like,
awesome.
remember, she's calling back to that moment when she purposely taunted that and was able to harness that power.
Yes. He looks at you knowingly, and now you guys are roughly like 12, 15 foot apart as it's still drifting. And he looks at you, and he goes, okay, and I'll try not to be as rough as Kiltusk was on me. And he grabs an arcane dagger that is made of radiant energy. And he says, where do you want it?
I think she's like, wherever you can actually hit me right now, and she's slowly like pivoting in the opposite direction.
As you do that, he has this look on his face like, right? Like he kind of gets that, and you can see his knuckles kind of give in. Mirk, are you saying anything at this moment where he throws his dagger?
Mark's idea was a whole lot less damaging, but at the same time, he's thinking, don't hurt her too badly, please.
Don't roll a natural 20.
Just snap a finger and burn her toe. Anything. Just don't
Okay.
slip up.
So I'm going to go ahead and do a 1d20. And I think Bast has a pretty high attack roll. I'm going to add d12 to it. I think he has around that. So we're going to go d20 here, d12 here. Let's see what it do. Just a minute. Like I say, d20 here, d12 here. Yeah, 25 will do. So with a 25, I just want to see something for the hell of it. Last thing, I want to say that on a 1d4, which is this bad boy right here, a 1 is like a place that wouldn't even matter, like get you in, like it'd stick in your armor, or maybe it would hit your leg or your arm or something. A 4 is like ouch. Okay, like holy shit with your attack. Ready? That's a 2. It's an in-betweeny. So I'll let you be the one, the creative one, to tell me where that stuck you when he threw it. And in between, like well, that was okay, I guess.
I think I have. It's not one where she has to be injured because of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what I'm thinking, if you're okay with it,
Yeah, it's your body. That's why I'm leaving it up to you.
I think that if it's gonna be a close call with that one, I think it gets lodged in her helmet next to the opening for her face.
Oh.
So it's one of those things where it hits like here, but she has the helmet, so she's fine. But like almost like a little like.
Yeah. I get that. Okay, so that happens.
And in that moment, Mirk registers where that dagger hit. He just stares at past.
Yeah, and you almost had to kind of like.
Also,
Parson Bast.
He turns to you and looks away from her, and he says she was being condescending.
Also,
right?
but like,
That's
think
what he
about
says
it,
to
like,
Mirk.
But like, think about it. If she's rotating in the opposite direction, it could have been that her head was one of the only parts. Or
Oh my
the top
God!
of her
Now
that was,
look.
like, peeking.
Look, now I don't think Danny Wood tried to freaking spear you in the head or nothing like that, but I get what you're saying. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's funny. So with that,
he would if it was me, though.
he might.
Let's
After
be
that,
honest, he would if it was me, though, just to get revenge.
That's fantastic. All right. So with that, you have radiant energy upon you. Now, you have taken. Oh shit. I'm curious, what is your armor class breach? Because he rolled a 25.
See.
Armor class primary is the top one, and armor class breach is the bottom one.
32.
Okay, okay, so what's your armor class primary, the top one?
26.
Okay, that works. So, the armor would have taken 11 points of radiant damage.
Okay.
Okay, so mark that down. And now you have the radiant energy about you, and you're getting ready to do a bolting lance to land on this thingamajigger?
11 points of radiant. Yes. I have a image that's coming to mind, though. So the image that's coming to mind, just at least for obtaining the radiant energy, so I think it gets lodged in the helmet, and then almost like a hairline fracture of like light begins to like splinter off from it, and then it almost like travels down through the armor, through her arm to her lance.
Okay.
So then, like, it's still there now, just looking like a normal thing, but like it's now moved and the lance is slightly glowing radiantly. Just it has no mechanical thing other than the visualization of the mechanic. And she's gonna do where is it? The bolting lance.
Yep.
For 7 MP.
So I want you to do the 7 MP, but also want you to do the 1 MP for drawing the lance back to you first before you're able to throw it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And now you've got it and you're getting ready to total 8.
Mm-hmm.
And just roll me a basic attack roll. Let me see what you're able to roll when you're throwing towards that place. And for theatrics, if you want to throw it like between Bast's feet just to show him, do you want to make this interesting or are you just trying to get it over there?
The
The devil's on your shoulder. I'm trying to get you in trouble.
She asked him to throw that at her, so it's not like she has any bad blood type thing.
Okay.
So she's just trying to get it lodged over.
Okay. Your bonus alone would do it, but I'm just curious. Roll a d20. Tell me what you get.
10 plus 12, so 22.
22. It lands there, and in a flash of radiant energy that streaks in that direction, you land securely within the perimeters of that, and all four of you are now. It's four of you, right? It's Brahmus, you, Bast. Yeah, all four of you are now securely there, standing in this open archway kind of thing. This is more of an archway than it is a door that has like a radiant, like a dull whiteness that comes out of it that you can't see. And when you look into it, it almost looks like an endless sky with, well, not an endless sky, but it's full of cloud cover. Like you're looking inside of what would be like sunlight shining through thick clouds is what this inside this archway looks like. You don't know where it's going to lead, but you all four are standing there getting ready to walk into it.
I think something she may do, and I think another reason why she wasn't aiming towards him is she knows he would never intentionally try to hurt her.
Yeah.
So she knows that even though it landed on her helmet, like even if it physically hurt her, he's not actually trying to hurt her. So I think she when she finally kind of gets to him, she may be like like pulls it out just like a ching. Here you go. Thank you.
I like it. Mirk, are you seeing anything as you all land on this place and you're looking into that, and Bouraxl takes a deep breath and looks at the two of you, and he begins to walk into this thing bravely and boldly. I'll give you a chance to interact and say whatever you would like at this point.
The first thing he's going to do is hug Sylowen.
Okay. Nice, buddy.
He's going to look at her. We need to be more careful. I don't know how much influence Brahmus has me up here.
And in that moment, I'm going to say, just for fun, you do realize that when he says that, I'll say you're able to connect the dots that he manifested that memory of his. He was willing to put a piece of himself out there to ensure that you could make it the rest of the way of crossed.
I think she kind of hugs him back kind of tightly, and then she's just like, I know. You be careful too, but thank you.
And as he pulls away from the hug and he looks at the door, Ambriel has been through an enormous amount of pain. I've seen it firsthand. I couldn't tell you whether this door shows more of the pain that she's been through or a happy memory. All I can tell you is prepare to feel the fragment of her pain. And he is going to cast Bless on everybody.
Nice.
Steel yourselves from what's ahead.
As you do that, what does that give them again, please?
I believe it is a 1d4 to, what's applicable be the saving throws. I think it does attacks and stuff too, but I'm pretty sure it adds a 1d4 to saving throws.
Okay, I'm going to give you something awesome because you guys had some awesome roleplay just now, and I appreciate it. That 1d4 is an automatic 4. Because when that hug happens and you get done saying that thing, you didn't even think about it, Mirk. But when you get ready to walk through that door, you realize that when you hugged her, you felt it. Now, for those of you who don't understand how big a deal that is, Jeremy, you do.
Oh, yeah.
And it's awesome in the fact that it just was a natural thing to you. It didn't strike you as odd in the moment. Where for hundreds of years, just being able to feel real wind on your face again would have just been like, what in the fuck, really? Just because you did this out of sheer instinct, and the mortality that you're slowly gaining because you're strengthening yourself and that level up you just had, you felt that, and you look down as you get ready to go through there, and drifting, floating up in your eyesight because of the anti-gravity in this place is a single strand of blonde, almost platinum hair that she has got entangled on your actual armor and stuff, and as she has shed this one piece of hair on you, you know how it is, you know, and it's kind of drifting, and it is stuck and adhering to your chest-like shoulder area of your armor. And as you reach down and grab that, you're holding a piece of mortal hair in your fingertips like it's nothing. Okay? Now, that's for you to decide how you want to handle it. But you and I both know that's a huge deal. Okay?
I think anybody looking at him would realize that he's got quite the smile on his face. Not like a very obvious, like overly excited smile, but kind of one of those, huh, well, be damned.
And as you do, Bastile's just kind of looking at you funny as you have this piece of hair and you're just kind of like, you know, Bast just kind of looks at you and goes, that's nice. Ready? Right? And Bastile just kind of follows Bouraxl and walks in through these clouds as they envelop him, almost like a fireman going into a smoke-filled room. What are you two doing?
I'm gonna look at Sylowen. Stay close to me.
So, random thing.
Yes.
But Mirk's hair is how now?
It's dark brown, almost black, and it's short, and it kind of naturally spikes from being cut short, but it's kind of angled back at the same time. And he has a medium beard that comes around the side. He has a mustache that goes down, and a medium beard that comes along the sides here. He appears to be of an age of his early to mid-30s.
So I think, and then the younger version had like a braid, right? Or something?
At one point when he was training, the version of him that you saw him down there, he had his hair all pulled back, and it was into a braid that just kind of stuck out maybe that short, like a short thing where he tied it off with like leather straps.
Okay.
And clean shaven, yes.
I think she'll be like, I'll stay close, but if your hair keeps growing, I could help you braid it next time.
That's fucking brilliant.
That's great.
What'd you say, Jeremy?
Says I would enjoy that greatly.
Okay, so Colby, I want to give you a chance to make a big fuck difference here. Okay, my friend? I have some different fragments of things that these people may find, and I want this to be random because you can't know everything, but there are some really cool things on the other side of these doors. And I want you, Colby, to roll me a 1d4, and I want you to tell me what you get, and that will determine the path of which these people take.
3.
Okay. Oh, shit.
Uh-huh. I had a feeling that was going to happen.
Okay. These are all pretty neat. Some are less impactful than others. But I want to give a disclaimer about this one. Because I know, and it is kind of funny, but I'll be honest with you, sometimes D&D is funny, sometimes it's tragic, sometimes it's tear-jerking. This is an intense one. So I want you guys to understand that I don't intentionally try to make things for shock value. This is something that is actually in this room. Okay? And if at any point someone has heard enough and they don't want to see what's going on in this room anymore, all you have to do is say, Brian, I'm good, I'm out. And I'll say, okay. And you can literally just pause your feed, go in the other room, chill out for at least 5 or so minutes, and come back when we are through the scene. Okay? Because this is a real one. And this depicts and this tells some shit. Okay?
Would we allow pineapple as the safe word? Or?
Sure. What's your say? Yours is pineapple. What's yours, Colby?
I don't know.
I don't know. Is this a safe word? Bella, what's yours?
I guess I'll stick with pineapple because that's a fairly
Well,
common.
no, listen. I can't have pineapple be in both people's safe words.
Ah, shit.
Yours could be nat 1.
Okay.
That's terrible. Oh, shit. Oh, it's terrible. Listen, her bad rolls have given us more awesome roleplay moments than I could count, so I'll take nat 1s. It's all good. All right.
I like to say I'm sorry. I had no idea what was going to go on.
No. It's cool because it's. I'll just shut up and we'll move forward. Okay. When you come through these clouds and you see Bouraxl, all of a sudden you feel a weight shift on your feet, as if you're standing on something that is steep. Like you feel the pressure on your ankle, you feel the weight, and you feel the wind whipping. And as you step out of the clouds, you see Bouraxl, and he's looking up. You hear deep, pitted rumblings as you see yourself on dark, black, gray, and brown slated mountainside. The clouds and the thunderstorm overhead is heavy, but the rain is only coming in certain sheets, and it's light. Every once in a while, there will be a gust of wind, and you'll see more of those clouds that you just stepped out of kind of whisk past you all as the last of you come through. Sylowen, you would almost want to put your lance down to hold yourself against the steepness of the place you find yourself upon. Okay? I want Jeremy, roll me a perception check.
You would not mind to roll for me.
I got you.
Perception bonus.
Well, then I'll just have Bella do it then. That's no problem. Bella, roll me a perception check, and you can use Jeremy's bonus, which would have been what, Jeremy?
+3.
+3. Go ahead and roll your d20. What you got?
I don't know why you asked me to roll.
Because I'm getting them out of the way.
Rolled a 5.
Around a 5, 9. Nothing comes into view yet, and there's an issue where, a lot of times when you go into these rooms, there's a direct way into them and there's a direct way out of them. At this point, standing on the side of this steep, mountainous thing that seems to be a lot of turbulence and sounds, and there's wind blowing up on it, and you're finding it's hard to keep your footing. You do not see the way out of this yet. And Bouraxl looks up ahead. And in that moment, all 4 of you hear this enormous sound coming from the sky. You automatically remember the moment when that large bird that has been called by these people for some time, the Quetzalcoatl, or the Quetzalcoatl. And all of a sudden a shadow goes over top of you, dropping the temperature by 3 or 4 degrees for just a brief moment. And that wind comes by so loud you can't even hear yourself think. As you see the underbelly of this creature, all blackness against a storm sky up above through the clouds, swoop down and powerfully go up. The only piece of the creature you actually see dip below the thick gray and black cloud cover are the tips of the wings, purples and reds and blacks. As the wings tips come through there, and you hear this large kind of scream as it goes across the sky. The clouds whip in behind it, almost like the turbines of a jet as they go off in the distance. And you find yourself on what you believe to be the side of the Culemon volcano, or at least some fragment of its memory, or someone's memory. And then you see something crazy. Up ahead in the distance, some odd feet ahead of you, you see a large nest made of all sorts of manners of pieces of dinosaur bones, trees made up in the distance. And it must be the nest of this creature. All of a sudden, Bouraxl looks down the mountain and he says, they are bringing the sacrifice. And he looks down. And you see 4 what look to be people from the Tenosian area. These look like they're the same race in origins as Kiltusk and Shakoma and Karsu, but they do not wear the same type of garb. But you've heard them tell stories in the hunting lodge. You've heard Bouraxl talk about things. These people wear armor and wear headdresses that make them appear to look like they are some kind of serpent worshippers. And they are bringing up a chain of 4 Makati clerics. The people, the passive people, the Makati are the people that built the water temple, the ones that left all those plans inside. And they are bringing them up shackled one after the other. And they look as if they are in terrible, terrible condition. And they are leading them up to the nest. Shackled one after the other, walking in tow. I will start with Bella. As you're seeing this unfold, you're not used to this. You know that sometimes you can have interactions with these. Sometimes you cannot have interactions with these. I am curious as to your reaction to seeing this. And what do you say in this moment? Sorry, guys. It's real. You pick 3.
I think that she may be a little bit frozen in the sense of she was just like in a petrified, scared place.
Yeah.
And then a slightly more confident place. And then a heartwarming, content place. And then now it's kind of being brought up like this idea of a sacrifice, which she herself was also in.
I know.
So I think she's a little bit sort of like trying to gain her footing of figuring out what her thoughts are right now.
Okay. You can interject at any time if you decide there's something you want to add, okay? Bastille. 20 is he keeps his cool. 1 is he overreacts. That's pretty good. He rolled 16. He looks over and he speaks kind of matter-of-factly, kind of like Danny does a lot of times when he plays the character. He kind of cuts through the bullshit and he looks over at Mirk and he goes, I know this is only a memory, but we've got to keep moving forward. He goes, Mirk? You with me? Mirk, what are you saying in this moment as you see Bouraxl just stone cold looking at this thing, looking at this happening as if he's seeing a painful story? You know, I will give you this, Mercandal Steelcrest. You know that the memories in this place have to be memories of someone in this place. This isn't yours. And it is confusing to you for that moment to think about whose eyes or who was given this memory and how. But it is here nonetheless. What are you doing?
He's going to put his hand on Bouraxl's shoulder.
Okay.
And just look at him. I know This is distressing, for lack of better terms. But the longer we wait here, the worse it will be. We have to go.
He looks in a different distance. I want to roll something. Oh no, that's a natural one. Bouraxl's bottom lip quivers for him. And he pulls off the Takari headdress and holds it at his side. And he looks, and all of a sudden he gets this kind of pain look on his face, like he's not understanding. And you see that lip quiver turn into a little bit of anger, and you can see his temples flare. He goes, "This isn't how it goes. This isn't." Why are there lies in this place? I don't understand. We're here to help, aren't we? And you hear the phantasmal voice of Yeota. Speak up, you all hear this. Some truths remain hidden. Some things are too painful to remember, Bouraxl. And some memories are not memories at all, at least true ones. Some are the memories that are minds made of lies that were told to us. And that's all it says. And as that happens, he marches down the hillside. And he gets into the face of one of those, and he goes through it like it would. He can't interact with it. And he says, "These were willing sacrifices. This does not look willing to me." And he goes to reach through the chains, and he can't. And he's pulling onto him, and he goes to reach again like that. And he goes, "What is this?" And he looks back at you, Mirk. And he looks back at you, Sylowen and Bast, and he's looking at all of you for answers. And he goes, "The sacrifices were brought with great honor to those that were selected. My own family lost members to this process. So to keep the Quetzalcoatl at bay and at peace. And as they go up, and they march and they approach the actual nest, you see the back of all four of them. Okay? And you can see that large creature once again comes in and swoops down, and it squawks in the distance, and this time you can see a couple of the talons reach down below the cloud peaks, and that large wah! It's just super loud. The wind rushes by like a windstorm by all your ears again, and this time the four serpent warriors start doing some kind of chant in some kind of eerie unison. One of the clerics, the Makati clerics, begins to pray. And he starts saying different words, and he's looking up at the sky, and his hands are shaking, and he's saying different words. And the other ones, one of them panics and tries to escape, and the serpent Tenosians pull it tight, and he starts saying these words. And as soon as you all are trying to find and look around, all of a sudden the ground's red. And it goes quiet. Who was it? Which one of them? And you see the second one from the front drops and goes limp as blood begins to pool. The other four serpent warriors go over and they start to unlock the other ones. And they say, one of the serpent warriors stops and grabs that one Makati cleric that started to pray, and he grabs onto his shirt and he picks him up. And he says, "You are to go tell the others that the sacrifice was chosen. And if you wish to keep your family from this process, you will keep your mouth shut as to what has transpired on this mountain today." Makati cleric continues to pray as if he doesn't hear the words of him. He goes, the other one speaks, and almost like a forked tongue, he's like, he doesn't understand you. He's praying to gods that don't exist. He goes, he understands me just fine. You'll heed my words, or your family will be a part of the next process. And he takes him and he throws him down. And he topples and lands, but he loses his footing, and this one Makati cleric begins to tumble and goes by and travels like 10-15 foot down the hillside. Looks like possibly even broken arm. And he holds up his arm and he looks at them and stuff, and he holds and cowers and scampers off down the mountain. Bouraxl looks over and he looks at the other ones. His eyes are wide. The two serpent warriors climb up inside of the nest, dragging the dead body with them. Blood coats the timbers, and you can definitely see it against the ivory tusks and rib bones and large teeth and skulls of different creatures and things, including displacer beast skulls, large birds. And that's not the most shocking part. As they come back, the other two come up front and they pull out what looks like some kind of large ceremonial blanket or like carpet type looking thing. I want you both to roll me a history check real quick. Isabella and Jeremy, please. Let me know what you get.
I just rolled a nat 20.
Fucking A. This thing looks just like the rug and stuff that was laid out in that room inside the temple that was in the crafting room. The one that was with the big tusks and all those bones and stuff, where you guys found the blueprints for the Makati, or the Makan, the ancient Makan that they made. Remember that ornate kind of Aztec-looking rug that laid in the middle that had stains of blood and shit like that on it? This has to be the same rug. Okay? And onto it, they pull out a large egg. It is charcoal gray with hues of blue and silver specks, and sometimes different age-like type rings, and this egg is fairly big. It's about the size of a barrel. And they pull this egg out, and they wrap it inside of this. And they take and descend down the mountain. Now, would anyone like to speculate as to what they just saw and where your mind is at before I move on? What do you think this means versus what Valdera told you all? Versus what this is all about? What does this change for you personally, Mirk?
For me, I no longer want to kill the Quetzalcoatl. Because at this point, yeah, it was a willing sacrifice, but they just stole one of its eggs. At this point, yeah, it's going to keep coming back. It wants its kid back.
Right. So the rage of this creature isn't just that ferocious a thing, but it would seem that these serpent-like Tenosian people are provoking and being the orchestrators of the Quetzalcoatl's rage. Correct?
That's definitely my assumption.
And then from what Bouraxl has said just now, Bastille will even speak up as much and say these weren't sacrifices to appease the creature. As Kiltus people were told, these sacrifices were to provoke it. They were lied to. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
With that, we're going to take a break. Give you guys a second to digest and stuff before we find the doorway out of this one and go to the next one. This is taking some time, but I think it's time well spent. So there's no sense in hurrying something when we're all having a ball with it. I'm sorry. I hate to throw shit like that in. I don't very often. but there was a plot to this. So thanks for hanging in there through it, okay? I'm going to pause here in 3. Well, we'll be back in just a moment in 3, 2, and 1. And we're back. That was an interesting break. I won't even get into it because there's no, there's only so much you can twist a knife. So it's all good. But Jeremy wanted to make sure we could see him so he could be smiling at my expense when we come back from that one.
Good enough, Brian can roll with the punches.
Yeah, see, and I see how you said you threw punches in there, and yeah, I get it. I want to do a shout out real quick to Captain Robert and his group of folks. Always are endorsing Voodoo Ranger, of which I am lucky enough to have one currently. So thank you, Captain Robert, for being a badass. There you are, little Voodoo Ranger. They say the trick is to drink one, then drink 2 cans worth of water. I say it's 9:30 and we just need to get this party rolling. So, with that, there will be no water had this afternoon. Let's go ahead and get back to this. The DM has accomplished far more than he, than thought this would accomplish. As we kind of come back into the reality of what you guys have just witnessed and seen. In the distance, let me see something here real quick. It's a natural 19, which is just exactly the way Danny would roll it. Let me tell you. He points up ahead, and he points over towards the nest, and he says, he looks at the rest of you, and he goes, I'm pretty sure I saw the top of another archway up there, and of course it's inside the nest. It seems like these memories or whatever it is that you or whoever's creating in here wants you to see them through. And he kind of looks to the rest of you. He looks over at Sylowen that seems to be kind of stuck in thought the moment. He kind of gives her a look for a minute. He kind of looks away and looks back over at Bouraxl and says, I'll go up first and make sure it's clear. Is anyone saying anything?
Just remember the things you see are but a memory. Don't let them confuse you.
He kind of looks and rolls his eyes in typical Danny fashion, looks around and goes, I think his place really more affects people that are emotionally tied to it. And although I care, my mind is in other places. But I understand what you're saying. And he puts one of his daggers away that he had drawn out, that he didn't realize he had drawn out until just now. It was weird. And begins to make his way up the mountainside. As he does, if you guys want to have a conversation between the two of you, as Bouraxl just kindly walks by you, Mirk, and gives you a knowing nod. And you can see there's pain on his face, and it just makes him look meaner. Bouraxl has a very mean kind of look to him to begin with. We've described several times what his character looks like. The actor from Predator, the Indian guy that died on the log, the really badass dude. And he just looks like he's had enough. And he is stone right now. And he begins to slowly make his way up the side of the mountain, or the volcano, as it were. As you see the 4 serpent dressed Tenosians work their way down the mountainside with this egg wrapped up in this ceremonial like blanket with blood stains on it. And they seem to have produced and pulled out 2 of these long poles that they're carrying it in, almost like you'd see slaves carrying royalty on a chariot when they have the poles on their shoulders and shit like that. It seems to be of that nature. And they're making their way back down, and they disappear into the clouds below. What's the conversation, you two, or are you just following Bastille?
Shame for his people to have been lied to in such a way. I can only imagine the number of losses that took place that they firmly believed in.
I wonder why? Why would anybody want that egg?
Why does anybody want to take control of a fort? Why does anybody want to usurp power?
Mm.
Yeah.
There's a power struggle. That is obvious.
Mm.
I believe that egg might have just given them the upper hand.
Just to clarify something, the sacrifices, they were told it was willing, and the Tenosian people have it.
Yeah, they believe. Mind you, Tenosian is all the main continents altogether. The whole land's called Tenosia, right?
Yeah.
And what it was believed and the things that you had overheard in the hunting lodge and Rursi, the cleric herself, having ties to the Makati people and things like that, from what you'd understood. Because it's a lot, and I understand your question. What you understood was that this large bird-like thing is called by these people. And by these people, I'm talking about the folks that live in the continent of Volatan, which we have not got to yet. But we know that the Volatan are the ones that went against the teachings of Baka and decided to summon forth the Terrachua to fight this large bird, to show that the Atladi warriors' way of just fighting things and being natural about it was not the way, that mortals could command the gods to create what they wished them to. So the Terrachua was what these serpent-like warriors prayed for and were given to beat the Quetzalcoatl, this large bird, in theory. The problem was it got away from them, and it destroyed the whole continent, breaking it into the parts that you're seeing today. Now we know this. So what these serpent-like people from the land of Volatan, this new kind of cult that rose up that are empowered, and they will control and tell the gods what they're going to do. We're not going to play your game anymore. We control and we make things happen. Okay? Their whole angle was, now that we've called that back again, we can either do one of two things. We can either summon a great and terrible danger to rid ourselves of the Quetzalcoatl, this big predatory bird that comes in every so many years to roost and mate and shit like that on their own sacred mountain or volcano. Or we can sacrifice people to it and appease it so its wrath will be subdued and the thing will take off, and then society will continue on under this illusion of this peace. But now you know that's not the truth.
Because the Atladi are struggling.
The Atladi barely exist now. The Volatan people of there, these serpent-like warriors, have all but run them out. And from what Rursi said, the cleric that was back there, the one that had the axe beak many episodes ago, she had described in that hunting lodge that many of the Makati, or the people that built that water temple, or their descendants, were possibly taken and practiced their religion in secret now, much like the movies of Christianity, where you see Christians were afraid to show who they were to the Romans and other people because they would get fucking killed. And they weren't allowed to practice that anymore because that wasn't the new religion, that wasn't the new way. This summoning the Terrachua, these serpent-like people that just came up and left this offering up there, they're the new way. And now we're getting you've just got a look into how they are corrupting through lies and manipulation to show the illusion of control, when really all they're doing is creating chaos. Did I put that pretty well? Does that make sense? It's a complex kind of web, but if you have another question about it, I'm more than welcome to answer that. But if you want more elaboration, it'll take a history check to recall more of the conversation. But they did talk about this quite a bit in the hunting lodge. It's been a while back, though.
Mm-hmm.
But you understood about, the people from Volaton were these serpent-like worshippers. They did summon the Terrachua. And as Kiltusk has explained in different people, the Atladi warriors were purists. They wear these panachos, and they do these things because they believe the gods that bring about the bigger dinosaurs and the bigger threat to their area is more flattering to them. Baka puts these challenges on these lands of Tenosia to show these mortals that he believes in them. He would never create something that was beyond their ability to take care of. And the bigger the challenge, the bigger that they are honored to take it on. And so the Atladi are purists. They wear these panachos. They do the old ways. They do combat and battle with these creatures, and it's worked for years. And then someone along the way from the lands of Volaton decided to step on their toes, and they said, nope, the angels and demons give us magic. We control them. We will tell them that they will take care of this threat and these prehistoric creatures for us. We will not play by their rules any longer. And because they prayed and asked for that, they got what they asked for. But they got way more. They brought forth a destructive power known as the Terrachua. And as it chased down this Quetzalcoatl, what they're calling a Quetzalcoatl, this large, what we know as a rock in D&D, this large monstrous bird, it tore apart the landscape, breaking it into the 3 continents that you see today. So, now that our minds are wrapped around that, and you've seen what you've just seen, you have to understand, these people, these serpent warriors from Volaton are provoking this fucking thing. Why? Is it for control? Is it so they can roll through fear and keep people oppressed in a certain way, or is there more to it than that? But this is a very unique look into this, and still the question, Mirk, in your mind is, who here is having this memory? That gives me goosebumps just saying it out loud. That's pretty good shit. For just a bounty hunt that started a year ago, we've got some pretty good shit, folks. I really got to say, it's cool. So, having said that, are you two heading up to Bastille and Bouraxl, or is there more of a conversation? Or do you want to do a history check to see if you can recall more of what Rursi said? It's up to you. D&D's cool because you can do what you want with it. I choose to drink beer with it. Yeah.
Nothing's coming to mind for me.
I'm good to get going.
Okay. As you all go up, it starts to dawn on you, Sylowen. Back in the lands of Alluvia, which is where you're from, the avian city of dreams. It sits high up on the mountain of tears beyond the clouds and the cloud wall that surrounds it and protects it from the outside world. You are extraordinarily familiar with avian predators. We've talked about that before. There's a lot that come around the mountain, and that large storm of clouds that forms around Alluvia, those 3 different floating continents that make up your homeland where Sylowen's from, usually protect it from anything that would come through there. The griffin riders of the Blackwing Guard have to train their griffins, and they have to have those helmets on them, which Steelbeak had one of these said helmets. And they learn how to bear themselves, blind themselves, and dive through this outer wall to gain entry in and out of the city. It's very treacherous. And as you're getting ready to go up through that place one more time, and so when you grab on to what looks like the bottom jawbone of a large mammoth-like prehistoric creature of some kind, you grab onto one of the teeth, and you get ready to pull, and you can see the tooth is kind of loose in the jawbone as you're pulling yourself up, and you see a little bit of a streak of blood where that body was taken into this place, and you try to avoid it, and you're walking in, and Mirk is back behind you. As soon as your head goes over the top of the outside crest of this large nest, you realize two things automatically. One is that this creature is like many of those avians, and it has nested in the same spot for many, many years. And the second thing is, it has also seen many, many sacrifices. And when you look over the edge, you see panachos. You see white robes of Makati clerics and priests and holy men that are scattered about this place. This creature, this what you know as the Quetzalcoatl, has fought and tore these things asunder. These are the bodies of not just ones that have been brought up here for sacrifice, but these are the bodies of these kind of people and the bones and remains of them from the rage and the vengeance that this natural predator has had on the people that it believes are responsible for taking its eggs. This is deliberately to make this creature hate these people. And when you come to that, and Mirk and your head goes back over and you're pulling yourself up through there too, Bouraxl is just standing amongst this ruin. And listen, guys, this is a huge fucking nest, as it would be, right? I mean, we've talked about how big this bird is. We know that it's damn near like half a football field wide. So you imagine the size of the nest, although its wings would be out the side. This is a large thing, and you've climbed up over quite a bit, like 10 or so foot of this outer nest to be inside here. When I tell you that there are the remains of broken eggshells and the remains of Atlati and Makati people in this place, I'm talking hundreds. I'm talking like you're walking through bones in this place. And you got to walk through at least 20 or 30 foot of bones just to get to the archway that stands in the middle of it that looks very similar to the first one you came through. You see distant rolling clouds beyond it. And what looks like a tarnished archway made of some kind of rare golden-like colored metal but is dull from erosion and time that hangs there with pieces of debris hanging off of the archway and a large feathers laying across it and things of that nature, like it has become part of the environment. And that is your next goal. Now, D&D says you can search through this shit. You can step over this shit. You can do all kinds of things here. You can look for, you want to make toothpicks out of the side. You can be whatever you want to be here. I want to give you guys the opportunity to interact with this area that is only as real as you make it. And then tell me what we're doing moving forward.
I think Mirk acknowledges that this is a memory, and even given the circumstances of what he's learned, under no circumstances would he try to disturb anything through here if he could help it.
Yeah. What about you, Sylowen?
I think she's probably trying to keep an eye on Bouraxl.
Okay.
Kind of see how he's sort of reacting to all this and if there's a way to kind of like help ground him to a degree.
That's very interesting. So, you'll see he's standing silent halfway between the outer perimeter of the rim of the nest and the doorway. And he seems to be standing there stoic, not emotionless. Tell me what you do, and then I'll react to that. What will you say, Jeremy? No pressure. I haven't said that in a while. I love that one.
That's the
That
thing.
one's
I want to
good.
help ground, but I don't know what to even say.
Well, play that then. Like I'll tell you, and I've told Colby and Danny and all that, I don't expect you guys to have Shakespeare on hand all the time. Sometimes nothing is role playing, right? This is one of the beautiful moments of that, where if you don't have words, don't use words. That's great.
I
You go up
think
there. Go ahead and tell me, because I have something I want to tell you. Once you get closer to him, tell me what you're doing.
I think she may approach him and sort of like stand like in front of him. And may kind of be like, I don't know what you're thinking or feeling right now, and I know we've said that these are all just memories and such, but I know it feels really real, and I know this, I think this is, I imagine anyway, bringing a lot of questions and fears up, but you're not alone in this. We're here if you need us. I'm at a loss at even what to say, but I wanted to let you know that I'm here. And I think she kind of may offer her hand out to him, because there's a part of her that would go in just like for a comforting touch, like a hug or something, but she doesn't know if he's a touchy person.
As he looks at you, and you can see some of the sternness from his brow begin to soften. His eyes close and he takes a deep breath. And as he does, he reaches his hand back and he begins to pull up the Terrachua mask again. And he begins to pull it down over his head. And as he does, and your hand is extended, you are shocked to see that a ghost-like phantasmal feminine arm has reached out from his chest and takes your hand gently, and it feels warm. And as you take a moment and step back a little bit, Yaota steps from Brahmus. Bouraxl. It's a B word. I used it. Okay. As she steps out, she looks at you. And you hear in your mind, as she smiles, and you look through and she's very beautiful, and she reminds you of Karsu to a degree, as they seem to be descended somehow, although you still don't know exactly how. Right? And you hear in your mind, she goes, you care so much for the things that our own people have yet to see. You are supposed to be here. And she walks through you. And as she does, you feel this kind of, what is this? And as you look, she bows down and she places her head on the skull of what seems to be a fallen or sacrificed Makati. And she says, once again, with her back to you, and you can hear this in your head, Sylowen, and you don't know if everyone else can hear this or not. You are a memory, but now other people remember. Your fate will not be for nothing. Now, the truth has been shown. And now we can do something about it. Thank you. Thank you for waiting here for so long. And she stands up and she walks back around you and she looks at you for a long moment as she passes and she enters back into Bouraxl. And as she does, you can see that tension come back onto his face, as if he's trying to hold face and he's saving it. We have further to go. And he nods. And he walks along. And he walks into the doorway. Okay? So, it's 10:07. Do you guys want to go for a little bit longer, or you want to cut it there? I know. And listen, just the fact that I know that we're working folks and you're even debating it is flattering to me. So, and I don't want to do that. That's a great stop point. But at the same time, what do you guys want to do?
And part of me wants to call it a night, but the other part is like, I want to see how far this door got us.
Yeah.
Because how much closer we got to that fortress from leaving here is going to be determine what Mirk's next course of action is.
Has to do with Colby's role. Colby's the gatekeeper. Where you come out depends on what he rolls on a 1d4 here in a minute.
What do you think, Bill? You want to get to the other side of the door and then call it quits?
Yeah, I guess. That sounds like the one that makes the most sense.
Okay. Colby.
That'll be the cliffhanger we leave on.
Beautiful roll so far, by the way. Having number 3 be the first one. Well played, sir. Now I need you to roll 1d4 and tell me where this leads. I have something drawn up here that you all can't see for a very good reason. It looks like blueprints, right? And I know where people are jumping and going, so go ahead. What did you roll, dude? You rolled another 3. Okay.
Oh, Baka, blessed us with the 3s.
Hold on. That's another page. Just a minute. Oh, God. Okay. Give me a second with this one. Holy shit. Just a second. Just a second. Talk amongst yourselves. Just a second.
I don't know if that's a good reaction or a bad reaction.
Well,
I'm waiting for you guys.
I know.
I know it affects me later on, but I'm worried for you guys now.
Yeah, I'm worried for us too.
Because technically, I'm screwing myself over too. I could be screwing myself over too, just because of the long run.
Okay. You know what? This is pretty awesome. I mean, I went through these and I read them in different orders, and I was like, well, will this work? Will they understand? And sometimes you wouldn't. And that's great for a game. But this one, versus the one you just saw, is pretty nice. So we'll do this. Are we going to assume that you all go ahead and step through this clouded, aging archway that seems to be tarnished and scattered with the remnants of the remains inside of this nest of this supposed Quetzalcoatl? I name it something different every time, right? Quetzalcoatl, Minimanaquatl. Yeah, it's going to get crazy.
The quesadilla waddle.
The quesadilla waddle. Limited time at Taco Bell only. Get your quesadilla waddle. Yes, I like it. So, having said that, does everyone step through?
Did the quesadilla waddle last Friday, as a matter of fact.
I mean, it's cheesy, but it works. So, bad puns.
90% of my humor.
That's a Voodoo Ranger will get you. Bad puns. That's right. Okay. By the way, if you've never had a chance, that one is nice. It's called Juice Force IPA. And dude, it's tasty, man. Oh, let me go this way. Bang. Oh, no, easy. There. Oh, you know what? Whatever. People really want to, they'll just pause the fucking video. Anyway, moving along. When you step through, this is the scene. Okay, I get to do a little bit of acting here. So, it looks familiar to you, Sylowen. Mirk, as soon as you step in here, there's a bit of panic. And you're not quite sure what to feel. because it would seem that you are exactly back in the exact same place you were before you entered this. You are in the final chamber. You look over to your side and you see the seraphim of Ambriel standing beside you. And it's like, how did I get back out here? What? We weren't done. And Jeremy, it's great because you and I have had conversations about things outside of game. That swells up in you as if I can't do the thing. We did something wrong. And then in the distance, you hear a moan. And it draws Sylowen, it draws all of your all's attention. And Bastille says, this is older. This isn't, it might be the same place, but this isn't the same time. And from the darkness, because there weren't a lot of torches lit in this place at the time, coming up some of the main pedestals is a figure. And the only way to describe this person is this is a Tenosian of middle to late years. And this individual has deep sunken eyes, as if he's been malnourished. He's skinny. Dressed similarly to the way that these serpent-like worshipping looking people were on the mountainside you were just on. And as he walks forward a little bit more, you see that his garb is more grandiose than these other just mere followers. As you would believe that the almost serpent-like head and the jewels in the eyes and the teeth that hang down from the serpent of this headdress that he wears, and this reminds you of almost like a sorcerer serpent version of what Bouraxl is as a Takari warrior version. If you had a warrior Takari headdress over here and body armor and shit the way in the dress that Bouraxl is, he is the reptilian serpent-like sorcerer version on the other side. And it is frightening. His eyes seem to be covered over in cataracts, only showing a pale blue circle in the middle, as if he has corrupted himself or poisoned himself in some way. You see darkened veins run through his neck. Hairless, with tattoos drawn about his sides of his face and on his arms, which are thin, long, with many different kinds of bracelets and ceremonial pieces hanging from him. As he looks over to his side, in a sinister voice, very similar to almost like Jeremy Irons. He says, "Remove the rest of them. There are to be none left, for this place has been cleansed." And as he says that, you hear the murmur of several different people in the distance. It has been cleansed. You hear chains. As you look along to the sides, you can see Makati people putting down gears, dropping blueprints, and being herded out of here like cattle, as if these people have come into this water temple and forced these people to leave, taking them as prisoners. You believe you're seeing that moment when this place was originally evacuated. And as you're seeing all this, Bouraxl takes a step forward. And he just can't help it. Naturally, you can see his hands, you can hear the bones crack, you can see his shoulders go forward. And you can hear the heavy breath. He can't help it. And as this being walks over to Bouraxl, and looks through him and walks through him shoulder to shoulder as they pass through like a quarter of their being. This large serpent-adorned sorcerer walks past, and he strolls wickedly up to the statue that is Ambriel Seraphim. And he takes out his hand, and he caresses the face of it. Runs his finger down and taps it. Okay? He starts to speak in whispered tongues to it, as if he's having a conversation with it, and we're privy to what he says. Okay? And it roughly goes like this. What were you trying to do? Lead them against me? You're trying to give them false hope. I will free you and enslave you. We'll find you. And your mortal friends can't help you anymore. He turns and begins to walk, and he talks over his shoulder to the construct. He goes, did you think that these people would actually rise up with your help to defeat me? What were you trying to do? Did you think they would try to defeat the Quetzalcoatl? And he laughs. All lies. By the mere belief in you, you have failed them of seeing the truth. I suppose I should be thanking you. He says, I have now the power to call down creatures fierce enough to even breach your armor. You can't hide in there forever. And when I free you of this prison, you will be mine. He looks around, looks to the right, looks to the left. It is fitting that you would be buried in this place by the hand of a mortal. For it is I that brought ruin into Terra Chua to your doorstep. He nods. And as he turns and walks away, Bouraxl is just like, he looks like he's about ready to fucking flip, like a raging barbarian losing his shit. And as this serpent-like sorcerer arrogantly walks away, I want you, Jeremy, to roll me a perception check.
$16.
16. Bella, roll me one. Or Jeremy can roll with advantage. Okay, roll one more time. Highest of the two. There's reason for this. I'm not just trying to be merciful. There's a reason.
That's a 7, so 16.
Okay. I'll give you this with that. All of a sudden, when he walks away, you notice something out of the corner of your eye, and you hear something wet in the distance. Okay? And as you look around, Mirk, no one else seems to notice this but you. Okay? And in that main chamber where you were at, this is worth remembering or writing down. If you were facing Ambriel, to the far right corner of that room, you see a body emerge from the water and take a deep breath in. And you hear a wet hand come up on that stone slab and that marble in this place, as if it's emerged from some secret hidden chamber from underneath the water. You recognize the face. And you think back to the scene you just saw, and it becomes clear, but you can't understand the passage of time. It is the cleric Makati that was freed on the side of the mountain, that was praying and was released and told to leave and never to speak of what happened. It's him, but he's much older. Okay? This looks like to be a late 60-year-old, maybe even 70-year-old version of that same person. And as he stands up and sneaks over, he has large white robes on. And he has a headband made out of fine metals and different dinosaur teeth and bones engraved into it. He is truly a Makati cleric. You're seeing history. Okay? And at this point, he comes into the vision of all of you. He looks in the distance, and he stands oddly close to Sylowen, not knowing that she's there, as if this is a memory. He looks over in the distance, and he holds up his hand, and he has a very serious look on his face. And he says, "I will remember you. Ezeku, your reign of lies and terror will fall. I swear it. No more secrets. No more hiding. Wisdom will be your downfall and arrogance your tomb. Ambriel, we need you. Please, give me salvation." And he falls on his knees and he begins to pray again. You see Ambriel light up, much in the same way that she did when you first came to her being, Jeremy. And with that, an opening in the floor emerges. And he looks, and he's raising his hands. "Thank you, Baka. Thank you." And he takes his hands down, and he looks over his shoulder. He goes, "I will return, and when I do, I will return with the truth and power. We didn't die for nothing." And he descends into the same type of stairway that you have found yourself going in and out of many, many times. And we will end there for tonight. So, before we get off here, I'm curious as to your all's thoughts, as to what you take from this. I will start with this for fun, because we haven't got to talk to him a whole lot. Colby, just metagaming here. If you're a fly on the wall and you're seeing these kind of things, I'm curious, what do you think this means? Like, what are you pulling from this? Because, you know, we've been through this for 3 hours now. So when these folks catch up to you, I'm not going to be like, "Hey, tell them what happened," and sit there for 3 hours while Sylowen and Mirk are like, "Jesus," and we were jumping, but there was a rope, and then there was a bird, and then there was a body, and, you know, I don't want that. So I'm curious as to your thoughts, because when we have that scene with you, it's going to be like they tell you what happened, right? So thank you for being patient. I hope you've enjoyed the ride. What are your thoughts as far as Kill Tusk? You know, what do you think he would make of this shit? I'm curious.
He would definitely be pissed.
Pissed is a response. That's a fair one, yeah.
Because, like, I'm assuming he lost his family, like, either to the lizard, to like the lizard folk, or to the other tribe, right?
It's kind of assumed that way, but you know what's great about this? It's your character, right? So we can help write
Mm.
some of that background. We can say that maybe one of them survives and is part of living in Bolatan in secret. You know, like I said, the Makati are still practicing there. You know that.
Mm.
But they're doing it in secret because they're afraid of getting killed or sacrificed or selected for the sacrifice that we now know is bullshit. So there's a chance that maybe one of them is alive. We'll do some dice rolls, right?
Mm.
Make it interesting. But I would say if not, yeah, they've either fallen prey to the creatures that have run amok, they were killed in the cataclysm, or they've fallen prey to the Vizilia, definitely. Which is awesome. We'll just
Yeah,
we'll just
'cause-
create the history as we go. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because I was also like thinking, like, depending on how well they described it to him when they all meet up again,
Yeah.
that his main goal when we were done here was destroying that tribe like they destroyed his.
Fuck yeah. I like it. You know what that means? Combat. Something we like in D&D, sir. Yeah. I like it. Bella, enlighten me, please. I'm curious to see what Sylowen's insights are now as you have seen this. And if you want to talk about just what Bella's thinking, that's cool. I'm curious of that as well, or what Sylowen's thinking. Just let us know. I'm curious before we hop off.
I'm wondering,
Uh-oh.
like, who was the one who initially grabbed people from New Gimdar to come here in the first place?
It was a contract that had been sent out to the Heart of the Beast Salvage and Supply, which is owned by that female centaur woman named Gwyneth, and it is also co-ran by Valdera, my character, and Tamara, which is someone that Jeremy played with for a while. And then when we were here for a while, there are things that you don't remember, but Jeremy does, that it turned out that contract wasn't exactly truthful. That it was something written up by two survivors of the lands of Tenosia. And they escaped, but we didn't know really why. But now, after this episode, I think we get it, why they ran. And it was this brother and sister that ran to New Gemdar that we saved at one point, and they are almost like, the video game Monster Hunter, where there's crafters and people in the city that make shit out of this rare and unique stuff. They are those people in the city now, and they're from here originally. So they concocted this quest and gave it to the Heart of the Beast. And Valdera's like, this sounds fucking awesome. We need to go do this. It turns out, though, what they put on that contract wasn't all what it seemed. And now that we're here, those two deserters from this place that are survivors have got heroes in the right place to do the right thing and hoping that it goes well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really interesting how we got here under the false illusion. It's kind of true what they wrote on this quest, because they gave Valdera several books. Remember all those things, Jeremy, where she was going through and explaining us what we could encounter. We took an airship here by Aeolus Lunari, the famous airship pilot, and he dropped us off here and shit. But yeah, that was initially how this all got started. Was a contract by two people that turned out they were from here, escaped here, and kind of bullshit us a little bit into going on a monster hunt that got us into way more shit that we could walk away from. That's the best way of describing it, Jeremy.
I basically helped Brad come up with that idea.
Yeah, just good start to a quest, man. Fuck, what do you want to do? So, now that I've told you a thing, you tell me a thing.
Yeah, because, like, he said he would come back with the truth. So there was a part of me like, oh, did he go out and grab the people to bring them here? And that's, not the case. But I'm assuming he's still out there, if the timeline is either he's still out there or he informed somebody. So we may have allies that we can eventually find that has his knowledge.
Could be.
A thought.
Yeah, it's all good. Jeremy.
I'd like to start off with saying that before we even started this quest, I had questions of, I don't really want to go kill somebody's god. We need to figure out what's going on with that.
Him and the girl Heather, which played Sylowen in a very fun way. She did too. I will never take anything away from the time she had with Sylowen, like back in the day. There was a lot of fun campaigns we had, but her main thing was like animal rights activist. Bella, which was crazy. She ran Sylowen like, no, I'm not just going to kill someone's god. That's stupid. I want to know what's going on. Like she was like, fucking give me the information now. So really, Sylowen's take was on this. She was very upright, and she was like, we're going. But if I sense the fact that this thing is a victim, I'm not killing someone's god for a bounty, and you're not either. So that was a real interesting take that she had on it. And Brahmus, Mirk, which we called him Brahmus all the time back then because people didn't really know everything, which is great. His take was, if this creature, if I'm not mistaken, Jeremy, if this creature truly is a murdering, predatory creature, we will go slay it and collect these things and come back here and take them to the heart of the beast salvage and supply and get some great deals on some beaks and some feathers, some claws, and come back with all kinds of money for this shit. But if it turns out that something's weird with this and this thing is actually being worshipped, I will not be slaying this creature.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of the initial thought. Okay. So having said that, go ahead.
I did have a thought. So we know that cleric had shown obvious signs of age from the first time we saw him,
and he's in there at that point in time. He's went into Ambriel.
Did the other guy show signs of aging?
So are you, okay, if I'm understanding your question correctly, are you wondering if one of those original 4 serpent-like guys could have been him, and he's just older now and moved up the ranks?
Well, I'm thinking more along the lines of sacrifices and deities. If someone sold their soul to have the power that he has, what are the odds that he doesn't quite age like everyone else?
Roll me you tell me the check, what you want to roll, and I'll tell you.
Because I'd kind of like to lump my other thought.
Please do. Hey, lump, buddy. Fucking clump it up. It's all good.
And I'm going to go with...
Okay.
We'll go
Bella's like, it's 10:30. Figure it out.
Would you allow an insight?
Why?
It is more along the lines of taking what I know, what I've seen, and trying to connect dots. Because obviously I've seen a pretty good time gap.
You're looking at measuring up evidence, not trying to work on past. Okay, I'll allow it.
Because not only am I trying to gauge the serpent dude, but I'm also trying to gauge how much time could have possibly passed between this moment we're in and the last time that we were in that room.
Go ahead.
And that is going to be a 26.
Okay. With a 26. Yeah, I thought about this. So, haha. Okay. Touché, player. It is extraordinarily hard to tell how time passes inside of a water temple when you have no point of reference what would have aged it. Now, when you're trying to determine that and looking at him, you have to imagine how much time has passed on the scrolls and the gears and the fragility, okay, of this place when you've worked your way through it so far. Because this is the moment you're seeing in this memory where these Makati people were forced out of here by this new uprising cult. Okay, or far established, but this was like the last place and refuge that the Makati had to learn from Ambriel, or as they figured she was, Baccha's spirit, speaking to them through this. Okay? You also understand that this thing was uncovered after the cataclysm with the Takari being summoned. Because this seraphim was found that way and brought here to be worshipped. It was not always just sitting here in the temple. It was found during the last cataclysm. So it's happened after that. Okay. We know that only a few generations there are possible survivors that still exist from the last time the Terrachua came through here and tore apart these lands. Okay. So you got to say, from the debris and all the shit that's in here, you're thinking that when this place shut down and the last Makati were taken out of here, this is less than 100 years ago. That's the best you can discern from the shape that things are in, because things are still functioning. Water did not stink and was stagnant, but you don't know how they made this place, right? But these gems were polished, things still worked, but also the Makati learned a lot from Ambriel or Baka and learned how to build shit the right way. And hopefully, to God, some of them still survive and have some of that knowledge left. But more importantly, that maybe that being is still in here. He escaped capture. Hidden chamber, top right. Stepped out of the water. Went in here. Yeah.
Given that that cleric had obvious signs of age, probably 30 plus years, give or take,
Easy.
from when we saw him at the nest.
No, more than that. Because he was in his 60s there, and when he was a young priest, he was 20. So you're thinking like a 40-year difference.
So did the serpent shaman show 40 years of age on him?
You can't connect if he was one of them or not.
Okay.
Sorry.
But I was thinking if he didn't look like he was any much older than what he was when we saw him at the nest.
That's fucked.
Yeah.
But you didn't get
we get out of here. I know who I'm looking for.
Yeah. But you do see this is a more grandiose version of that. This is an evolved badass of that group. And when you heard those chains going by and those Makati being hauled out, you got images of people that look very much like the four that carried up that sacrifice up the hill. So that is just awesome rolling that you got to see this scene after the last scene.
Right.
Which couldn't have been fucking better. So, yes, that is that. And with that, we'll go ahead and let you guys go. And as far as the recording, if anyone wants to hang out for just a minute and shoot the shit, that's perfectly fine, as we always do. But in saying goodnight, once again, Brian Kynes, want to thank everybody for being here. I love doing this. I like creating these stories. I like your all's reaction to them. And I like the fact that it's a story that moves along your reactions. We are creating this as we go, and it is ending up being an awesome thing. I'm really enjoying this stuff. It's book worthy, in my opinion. So with that being said, we'll hopefully catch you all in 2 weeks. And I don't know if we'll do plan A or B. We'll see. But until then, careful, everyone. We'll see you next Sunday.